West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
Well, it's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Colorado's blue is blue, America's red. It all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where we bring you a right, left, center dialogue that you're not going to hear anywhere else, and unlike any other show in the Denver, Colorado metro market, you get to be a part of the conversation. This is not a monologue. This isn't just us talking with guests. You are part of it. So here's the phone line number to give us a call if you want to join the conversation. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. What are we talking about today? We got a lot to talk about. Trump's tariff lawsuit, this 3-judge panel with an international trade court dealing with a case coming from a wine vendor and a music vendor out of Virginia, have been able to shut down the President of the United States from implementing tariffs. What is going on? Does this belong in Congress? Is this the revenge of Rand Paul? If you remember, shortly after Trump put together his tariff package on, what was it, Liberty Day or Independence Day or whatever?
Liberation
Day. There it was.
Yes.
Rand Paul goes to the well of the Senate and makes the great argument that this belongs in Congress. But can you rely on Congress to implement tariffs? They're so slow. They're so special interest driven. They just send an army of lobbyists in to try to stop this. Can Congress even do this? Or is it a power of foreign policy negotiations? Well, we're on our way up through the courts on this.
When you're doing special interests, I thought you were going to say special education. I'm sorry. I thought you were going a totally different direction.
Not much different.
Yeah,
actually, it's a whole lot different. I'd
Yes.
I'd actually trust the special education kids.
Yes,
They're a hell of a lot more honest than these special interests are.
And I've seen them work together and go, okay, yes.
Send in the special education kids. They'd actually run our government better, I think.
Oh, yes.
We're going to talk with Rory O'Neill in the 7 o'clock hour about AI businesses. The use of artificial intelligence is exploding. There are indicators that it will have a tremendous impact on the job market in just a few short years, especially entry-level white-collar jobs. Could those jobs, could your job be on the chopping block due to AI? We'll be talking with Rory O'Neill in the 7 o'clock hour. 8 o'clock hour, Elon Musk stepping down. Did he achieve important advancements in cutting government that you expected of him? Or was it a failed project? Want to hear from you. 8 o'clock hour, 9 o'clock hour. Real questions with regards to these executive orders that Joe Biden was apparently signing. Was he really aware of what's happening? A conservative organization's now raising a lot of questions about whether or not somebody else was signing those executive orders, and is that legal? Is there anything conservatives can do about it? If you remember that movie Dave, where the president has a stroke and then the chief of staff is just sitting at the White House office desk, just sitting there signing bills into law. Was that what was happening with Joe Biden? So, 9 o'clock hour, lots to cover. Want you to be a part of the conversation. Now is time for your 6 a.m. dose of news and comment with Mr. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning. Thrilling Thursday. 49 and cloudy in Denver. Good morning. Expecting a high of 64 today. 7 to 10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Elon posting on X this morning as my scheduled time as a special government employee comes to an end. I would like to thank President Trump for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. The DOGE mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government. Let's hope so. Tesla investors are telling Elon it's time to return to the office and start working 40 hours a week at the company. I'm sure he'll work 60 to 80. Speaking of DOGE, Representative Andy Biggs, a great perspective.
I am calling for the DOGE cuts to come back. And then people say, well, that's, contextually, they're fairly small compared to the other problems that we have with the budget. I said, they are contextually small numerically, but they are politically gargantuan. You have to do the DOGE cuts because they're getting to fraud, waste, and abuse, and that's what every American wants. That's like a 90-10 issue. The other thing that you have to push forward to is you're going to have to codify the executive orders that President Trump has done. And if you can't, people say, well, I don't think we have the votes to do it because it'll take 60 votes to codify in the Senate. That's the Senate's problem. Let's be the House of Representatives. Let's pass out the codification, get it over to the Senate, and if the Senate doesn't want to do it, then they will be exposed for being the shamsters that they are.
He was on Benny Johnson, and as far as the big, beautiful bill, Senator Ron Johnson wants to cut spending, but trying to find a way.
I love what President Trump is doing. He is such a unique individual, unique political figure, unique president. He is doing things that only he would do. Nobody else would do it. And it's things that have to be done. Okay, so I'm so supportive of most of what he's doing. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. We've never had such an unprecedented level of spending. Returning to a reasonable level is just so common sense and not that hard.
That was an outstanding interview on Tucker, if you haven't seen it on X. The International Trade Court, who no one had heard of until last night, jacking up everything that is good or could be good in this country. Half of them said Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are unconstitutional. Here we go again. Lawfare judges or judges who have TDS, whatever, and they think they are president. A new housing unit specifically for military veterans has opened at the Denver jail. Sheriff Elias Diggins unveiled the new unit Wednesday. Diggins said the unit will provide the structure and guidance that veterans need to successfully transition back into the community. The Sheriff's Department will work with the Veterans Court to identify eligible inmates. They will receive specialized programming like anger management, job training, and individual reentry plans. They will also be connected to the VA to receive additional resources after they are released. The latest accomplishment by new HHS Secretary RFK Jr., Skittles will remove titanium dioxide from all products sold in the U.S., one of the little big things that can only help the health in America. 47 says he may consider pardoning two men convicted of plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Barry Croft Jr. and Adam Fox are both serving lengthy sentences at the federal Supermax prison here in Colorado after being found guilty of conspiracy to kidnap. And actor-director Kevin Costner being sued by a female stunt double. Devin LaBella is a stunt double in Costner's Horizon film series. She claims she was unexpectedly required to be in a sexual violence scene that has left her with severe emotional distress. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Thunder struck the T-Wolves again, 124-94, headed to the NBA Finals. They await the winner of the Pacers and Knicks series tonight. The Pacers could wrap that up this evening. 46 in Parker, 47 in Brighton, 49 in Denver. Jeff and Billy have just started. They just kicked it off on a Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Temperatures will still be a little on the cool side, and there's still enough moisture around for night and morning fog and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms today. Highs mid to upper 60s. Clearing out a bit tonight, lows 40s and lower 50s. Partly cloudy on Friday, warming to near 80 with late day widely scattered thunderstorms. 70s to lower 80s Saturday, a few late day thunderstorms. Well into the 80s Sunday with a few thunderstorms late. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, headline coming from Reuters. U.S. court blocks most of Trump's tariffs, says president exceeded his authority. A U.S. trade court blocked most of President Trump's tariffs in a sweeping ruling on Wednesday that found the president overstepped his authority by imposing across-the-board duties on imports from U.S. trading partners. The Court of International Trade said the U.S. Constitution gives Congress exclusive authority to regulate commerce in other countries that is not overridden by the president's emergency powers to safeguard the U.S. Economy. Meanwhile, a similar headline coming from ABC News just last week. Judge says Trump has power to impose tariffs, but punts the lawsuit to a different court. This judge says Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs may be able to survive a legal challenge thanks to, in part, to a Japanese zipper company that sued the Nixon administration 50 years ago. And in that court ruling, it said that the president does have some pretty broad powers when it comes to tariffs. This judge pointing out that this was a federal judge in Florida, that the president has the authority to unilaterally impose tariffs, basing his ruling on the precedent from a 1970s court case, but stopped short of issuing an order affirming the president's right to impose sweeping tariffs. So as you can imagine, this issue is likely going to make it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But here are some of the issues at stake here, okay? So, traditionally, constitutionally, the power to regulate international trade belongs with Congress. That has been pointed out by Rand Paul in the speech that came on the floor of the Senate following the Liberation Day tariffs that Donald Trump introduced. But there's been a series of decisions around the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977 that does give the president authority to set tariffs for reasons other than raising revenue. Donald Trump has made the argument that with regards to Mexico, for instance, he's dealing with an international crisis of fentanyl that's killing Americans, And implementing tariffs is part of his effort to essentially implement U.S. foreign policy, which resides with the president in the executive branch. So where does this all fall? I understand the concern of putting all this power with the president and allowing tariffs to just kind of be thrown out there and brought back and thrown out there and brought back. It brings a lot of instability. I understand that concern. On the flip side, Bill, when you hand it to Congress, I can't see Congress getting anything done these days. It is so muddled in special interests that the minute you try to implement a tariff, well, here comes an army of highly paid lobbyists that will descend upon Congress with dollars for campaigns and all that. You'd never see anything actually implemented. So I'm a little torn here. I go, gosh, do I want to give all this power to one person in the executive branch? Is that good? I like the guy that's currently there. Not sure moving forward. For instance, I think Joe Biden could figure out what to do with a tariff, somebody like that, because he's out to lunch. So do I want to put that power in the executive branch? I'm hesitant there. But then I look at the legislative branch and I go, well, that's just a swamp. They can't name a dang post office, let alone put together a comprehensive foreign policy with regards to tariffs. So, gosh, I don't know. I'm a little torn here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this one, I'm surprised, honestly. I didn't think that the trade court was going to rule in this manner. This one's shocked. And I think the story you were talking about earlier is that the case that the judge kicked to another court is kicked to this trade court that just made this ruling. So the trade court may disagree with the Florida judge's ruling, which is really interesting. I do think that when parsing the language of the original act that gave the president temporary powers to raise tariffs and do other things based on declared emergencies, I do believe this is the right interpretation of the act and the law, because it's difficult in my mind for Trump to justify this as an emergency. I understand his issue with immigration and fentanyl, but I don't think that impacts, say, Germany. I don't think Germany is involved in the fentanyl trade, nor are there lots of German illegal migrants sneaking across the border or declaring asylum. So the idea that they're universal, I think, hurts his case that he's doing this for fentanyl or for illegal immigration. The trade deficit is laughable to claim that's an emergency because of what trade deficits are and how they function. Just because you have a trade deficit isn't an economic emergency. And so that is just on its face discounted. And I appreciate the court treating it as such, that the declaration is just ridiculously dumb. I do agree with you that I don't have a lot of faith that Congress can do something like this. But that's how the country's set up. That if you want to get this done, you got to get it through Congress. And what I keep going back to is the idea of, this is so difficult. I don't know if Congress can actually do this. Now, what I would have told you that a major reformation, I'm not talking about positive or negative, but I'm just talking about a major reformation of our healthcare industry seems impossible. But Barack Obama herded the cats. And he did it again, different set of circumstances based on representation inside of Congress and the power and what he was able to do. But we do have instances in the past of presidents being able to get these things through, saying because Congress isn't letting me isn't the default choice for a monarch, because that's what you end up debating is this country supposed to be a monarchy that whoever wins the White House is divinely appointed by God and should be allowed to enter these edicts on whatever they want? Or is there a separation of powers and we have three distinct branches of government and they have to counterbalance each other in some areas? And I believe our founding fathers set it up for Congress to be in charge of things like the money, the laws, and trade policy for exactly this reason, is because, as it was reflected in the court case, it can't be left to the whim of one individual, that because the president gets mad at another country, the government and the U.S. isn't set up for that president to take out their emotional instability on that country or those individuals because they're mad, regardless of political party. And so that's what I think it is this is a balance between, do we actually have a representative form of government, or do we have a king? And if you think that Donald Trump should be able to sign all these executive orders, and I was shocked to hear some of the comments from people like Stephen Miller saying that the courts are taking away his power. He was treating him as a sovereign, not as an elected official. I've heard a lot of these quotes coming out as if this is the sovereign right of the president, and it's not.
I don't think the critique is that he's a sovereign king. I think the critique is, like, with regards to the courts and the rise of these injunctions coming from district courts, is that this traditionally hasn't happened in our country. In fact, that has only arisen in our country in the last 50 years. So, and in this case, it's been used over and over and over again, particularly against this president. And some people pointing that this stems from Harry Reid getting rid of the 60 vote requirement to appoint federal judges, essentially implementing the nuclear option. So now you have more partisan judges. A great example is Charlotte Sweeney, who's implemented one of these injunctions. Charlotte Sweeney here in Colorado is literally detailed in an article saying she became a judge to stop Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So
I would also throw Luce Cannon in Florida, the circuit judge down there, Eileen Cannon, because all judicial reviews at the time said she was not qualified in any way, shape, or form to be holding that position.
So the critique being right now that the courts have become so politicized, and we've seen that with the rise of these types of nationwide injunctions that have come from these district judges, that this isn't the way the country was set up, that it's been skewed. When you look at Congress, for instance, we're $37 trillion in debt. There's only one direction that you can seem to get Congress to go, and that is more government spending, more government regulation, more government oversight, more special interest entanglement. And so Congress has failed its job. So are they living up to checks and balances? I think the critique is that they're failing to do their job. Therefore, we're trying to bring some change and improvement to our country, but it's so entangled with special interests and politics that it can't be done, and we have real serious problems. But here's what ABC News is saying, that the question comes down to the interpretation of the 1970s law that Trump used to impose his tariffs. It's called the IEEPA, which gives the president the right to, quote, regulate imports, but does not explicitly mention tariffs. Lawyers challenging the tariffs have argued that Trump's interpretation of the law oversteps his authority by treading into an issue controlled by Congress. But the Trump administration has pointed judges to a court decision related to this law, the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, to guide the way. Back when President Richard Nixon confronted the country's 1971 economic crisis with steep tariffs on Japanese goods, a zipper company based in Japan, and you probably have the zipper. It's the YKK zipper, right, that you see?
Oh, yeah.
That came before the courts, and the Court of Customs and Patent Appeals, the predecessor of the Court of International Trade, sided with the government and held that this law from 1917 gives the president the power to impose tariffs. So what do you believe? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Where does the power of leveraging tariffs reside? Does it reside with Congress? Maybe you believe that the Constitution says it does reside with Congress, but you don't think it's effective if it resides with Congress, because they're just so entangled they'll never actually pass anything. Or do you believe that this resides with the president, and under, most importantly, his powers that belong with the executive branch to engage in diplomacy, foreign affairs? That traditionally doesn't reside with Congress. It resides with the executive branch because it's so dynamic and it changes with each country. So give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Do you like Donald Trump in charge of negotiating tariffs? Would you like to see this handed to Congress? Brittany Pedersen. All right, let's talk alarm detection systems. Look, reliability isn't an option when business security is on the line. You know how tough it is to be in Colorado right now with these weak district attorneys, with these judges letting the bad guys out. Crime is rampant. You need to have a good alarm system to protect your business. That is Alarm Detection Systems, the highest level of service and expertise. They combine it all in one source, right? For your cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems, saving you time and money. Here's some of their latest offers. ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same-day or next-day service, dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. They're trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools. Their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com and schedule your appointment today. adsalarm.com, Alarm Detection Systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses, adsalarm.com. All right, we'll get to your phone calls and texts. The U.S. Court of Trade blocking most of Trump's tariffs, says the president exceeds his authorities. Other judges saying, no, it's perfectly in line with what Richard Nixon did, for instance, to confront the country's 1971 economic crisis. What do you think? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. A U.S. court blocking most of Trump's tariffs says the president has exceeded his authority. Okay. Where was the concern about tariffs being implemented when Joe Biden was president? Oh, it's just Trump that we've got to rush to the courts to stop when it comes to tariffs. But bigger question is, where does this power reside? Do you think it resides with Congress? Rand Paul, others making the constitutional argument that no, this power resides with Congress. Okay, but other courts have said, particularly back in 1971, Nixon, that there's broad power that belongs to the executive branch, in part because that's where foreign affairs is negotiated. This power belongs to the president. Tariffs is a form of foreign affairs. President saying, though, but I'm dealing with emergencies, whether it's trade deficit, whether it's the border, fentanyl, and tariffs are an important part of dealing with those emergencies. What do you think? Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I think you might have mentioned it was a 3-judge panel, right? A judge appointed by Reagan, one appointed by Obama, and one by Trump. They heard the arguments you were making from the government attorneys, and they didn't buy that at all. Uniformly, they shot that down. Taxation, tariffs are taxation, and that rests with Congress. So Trump is going, if he wants to get that through, and it'll go through appeals, and certainly he's going to probably get appealed all the way to the Supreme Court, and that's going to take probably months for that to go through. And that there's some implications. 2 things to keep in mind. Almost everything Trump's done has been by executive order, and we all know what that means. A Democratic president comes in on day one, reverses all of them, and that's the risk when you're not trying to work with Congress to pass legislation. So I think that the Trump administration should take this as an opportunity to start thinking about trying to pass this through Congress. So that, Biden did. He got several big pieces of legislation on a bipartisan basis through Congress. And I think Trump needs to kind of think that way. The other implication is going to affect, what do they call it? The big magical bill, or whatever that bill is now that's sitting in the Senate. He had a lot of revenue forecasted from tariffs to offset the big debt that it was going to incur, and probably in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Now that is largely off the table, so now the Senate is dealing with an even larger deficit in that bill.
Tony, do you
so
think
they're going to have to try and offset
that? On that point, do you think that the money coming in from tariffs is a compelling argument to Congress to continue them?
No. I mean, look, the court did him a favor. They did him a favor. This is their best chance to hold the House, is if these courts continue to uphold this decision, because it was going to be crippling to the economy. Now, it's still doing damage because no company can really make a move until the appeals are over. And this could be 6 months. It could go into the next session of the Supreme Court. And if so, that's put our economy still kind of held down, locked up, because not knowing which way that's going to go. But this is the best chance that the House has to keep it a Republican House at the midterms, because the economy was going to suffer as a byproduct. So no, I mean, in the Senate, for sure, they're not looking to. They did not want those tariffs. I mean, that was really, if anybody was going to support it, it would be the House. But as of right now, it's going to have to go through appeals, and again, it's going to take months and months and months. And the economy.
What do you think should happen with that money? $16 billion was collected in tariffs, customs, and excise taxes in April. Do you think they need to return it?
I don't think the courts ruled that. I don't know how, if the court's going to is going to rule that money has to be returned or not. That's a small number. I mean, that's a small number. So I don't know that anybody.
I think it was a record
cares.
number, actually.
Pardon me?
I think it was a record number that came in from tariffs.
It's a record number, but when you're talking a deficit of $4.5 trillion in this new bill, I mean, you've been one to be you personally have said, hey, this is ridiculous. I mean, this bill has a $4.5 trillion deficit.
Needs to cut
so
more
16
spending.
billion isn't much, that's not even a bite out of it. So, but I think he had, over the course of years, projected hundreds of millions of dollars to keep it at $4.5 trillion. So if, let's say, it was 500 million that he'd projected, or 500 billion he'd projected, well, now the deficit's going to be a $5 trillion deficit. So,
Tony,
it's just something to keep in mind.
Who do you think the power to regulate tariffs should reside with? Congress or the president?
I agree. The three judges, I think, got it right. I mean, it's a tax. It needs to be done by Congress, and he should go to Congress and try to get Congress to pass the bill.
Do you think they're actually nimble enough to be able to do this on a country by country basis? Because your tariffs are different based upon the country. So you think that you could show up to the Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., with a bill to regulate a tariff in Mexico based upon this? We're going to do chicken in Mexico this way. We're going to do chicken in Canada this way. By the way, tires are going to be different here. And then you're going to put all of that into Congress with all the special interests and expect anything to come out of it?
Well, Jeff, two things. Congress, number one, they have to deal with the budget bill was a complex bill, so they should be able to. They're expected to be able to handle complex issues. But Billy hit it on the head. What killed it in the courts was that he did the 10% universal across the entire globe, and Billy hit it exactly right. Germany has nothing to do with this.
So you would be okay if it was one by one, not a universal tariff?
He might have had a better chance.
But I'm asking you, would you support that?
I'm telling you, straight up. This is an issue for Congress. I disagreed with this. I disagreed with this tariff package from day one.
And did you disagree when Joe Biden did tariffs?
Ooh, I did.
What Joe Biden largely did is Joe Biden did not remove most of the tariffs that Trump put in place. He left those alone. And Trump is getting...
Right, but I don't remember Democrats running to court to try to stop Joe Biden.
Well, it was a different deal. And Trump, even the court has allowed, some tariffs have survived. He's got an increase on, I think, Canadian steel in this package that's not affected. That higher Canadian steel tariff is still intact. The court did not say that's illegal because that was not done. It was everything on April 2nd. Everything that he did on April 2nd got shot down. The steel tariff was under a different law, and he could make an adjustment to that tariff, and they're allowing that to stand. So the court there was nuance in their decision. It wasn't just a carte blanche, everything has to go. It was just everything he did under that Emergency Powers Act, because they're saying we don't have an emergency situation that would have required putting a 10% tariff on every country on the globe. So, he's got to go back to the drawing board. And it does affect the budget bill that was just sent over to the Senate.
So you believe then that the president does have the power to implement tariffs? Not blanket tariffs?
Certain tariffs, I'm not an expert in the area. I'm just simply, there are certain tariffs
have you ever looked, I went and looked at and tried to understand, the existing tariffs, and there's a website you can go to, I don't remember what it is, some trade website. Dude, it is down to, how your chicken was raised and the type of meat that is being sent from a...
and there's a reason for that, because
nuanced and detailed when it comes to a particular tariff that I'm sitting there going, you expect Congress to try to figure this out?
If Congress, then it's the wrong Congress. If they can't handle these big decisions, these difficult decisions, you've got the wrong Congress, and that's why you might see a change in the Congress. They have to step up. They basically granted all their powers to him, and the courts are basically saying they can't grant them, even if they want to grant them.
No,
They have to pass legislation.
I see it more as a form of, particularly, and you pointed this out, Tony, when you're dealing with things like fentanyl and illegal immigration, tariffs become a form of foreign policy exercise, not just the power to tax. It becomes part of how the United States negotiates its foreign policy with other countries. And that exists with the president. Should have the president have some flexibility there. But what I'm hearing from you, Tony, is kind of a both and.
You know what?
We think that it should be the power of Congress to tax. But then when I bring up some of these specific cases, you go, yeah, the president should have the power to implement tariffs.
I know that I know that the attitude is, these judges need to be impeached. Well, again, one of them was just appointed by Trump. So, and I think it's also worth remembering it was Trump who negotiated the greatest North American trade deal in the history of the world, and he's thrown that out the window 4 years after he's back in office. So, there's this up and down and back and forth has been very confusing for a lot of people, but the judges, for everybody, but the judges don't seem to be at all. It wasn't a 2-1. It was 3-0 across the board. So in this case, I'm one of those. I'll trust the expertise of this, especially a unanimous.
The Court of International
verdict.
Trade, which oftentimes has to do with civil issues. So we'll have to see. I think this is going to run to the U.S. Supreme Court. You had a judge just the prior week before go, yeah, I'm going to send it to that. But his analysis is there's a power that the Trump does have the power to impose tariffs.
I'm going to guess, and I'll call back and I'll eat crow if I'm wrong. I think the next court to get it, the next appeals court to get it, is going to say we're going to let that decision stand. I don't think any court wants to try and override that trade court. This is their area of expertise.
I don't know.
So I don't see it even being overturned.
From Nixon administration saying that the president does have broad authority when it comes to implementing tariffs. We'll have to see.
And the judges heard that argument loud and clear from the government's attorneys, and they rejected it out of hand.
Yeah, but Tony, I'll just point out. You can say that, but Jack Phillips lost every single case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and finally won there twice. Tony, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Tony from Littleton. His line will be open. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Who has the power to implement tariffs? Do you see them as a form of taxation that belongs with Congress, or a form of foreign policy negotiation that belongs with the executive branch?
Now,
I'm happy to hear from you.
I think Tony's got a point, but I may disagree with him a little bit. I do think that it'll get to the federal appeals court as the next step. I do think they're going to reinforce the existing decision, not because they may or may not agree with it, is because this is going to the Supremes. And that appeals court doesn't want to get in with another type of decision. I think they're going to default and say, like Tony said, this is a trade court. We're going to default only because they don't want to be on the hook for being overturned. They're just going to default to the lower court judgment. I think this goes to the Supremes. So I think the next court will reaffirm the decision only because it's going to allow it a quicker path to the Supremes. But that's just my impression of it.
Yeah,
Could be wrong.
Does the Court of International Trade have the power to do that? That's another question. So join the conversation. Love to hear from you. Let's talk L&L heating and air conditioning. Look, the temperature's bouncing all around. One moment it can be hot, the other part of the day cold. Yesterday was a great example of that. I'm out playing basketball with my boys. At one point it's nice. Before you know it, it's icy cold. We got rain pouring down. You need a system that can handle both ends of that, hot, cold. We did the research. Guys, the best out there, L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. One-day installation, no stress, personal service, start to finish. Our home, totally comfortable no matter what the weather. Loved working with L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's some of the deals they got going on right now. A free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with with a new furnace or air conditioner installation. No emergency charges, a $0 trip fee, price match value guarantee on equipment, free estimate licensed and insured, and a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great, and our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, and reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. 720-851-1691 is their phone number. Online at bestdenverhvac.com. bestdenverhvac.com. That number again, 720-851-1691. All right, coming up, we've got You Choose the News, but we'll continue the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Lots of text messages today. Thank you to Tony for giving us a call. People on all sides of this.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yep. We love it. Congress has delegated some power to regulate tariffs to the president. 5556. Others going, the court may end up saving Trump from Trump. Jason in Denver. So appreciate it. We'll have to see where this plays out. But I think you have real tangible questions whether or not Congress could handle this. All right. Let's go now for a moment of levity to You Choose the News.
Yes, from will the court save Trump to who's going to save this portion of the show. Oh, this is the train wreck we call You Choose the News. Yes, it's America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have scoured the interwebs for moments this morning to find really, really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even worse headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why would we do this? Well, those in charge don't wake up until 7 o'clock. Once we found that out, Jeff and I unsupervised, we are going to take full advantage. But shh. This is a secret. That's why we rope Blake Olson into this one, because we need someone to blame in case this goes sideways. I'm just saying, you're the scapegoat, Blake. Just hate to break that to you.
All right, Let's go.
All righty. Now, gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, Trump Island. Headline number 2, efficiency or contamination. Headline number 3, turning to the dark side. And headline number 4, bust a move. Yeah, Mr. Hunt, your turn.
Let's start with Trump Island.
Yes, Trump Island. In a very unexpected geopolitical event in the last 48 hours, the Republic of Annobon, a remote African island located in the Gulf of Guinea, has formally requested that someone annex them. Please annex the island. They're actually reaching out to Argentina, but wait until Trump hears about this. He likes to annex islands, so maybe he'd like this one. Basically, what happened was the request was made because they're saying they're facing a severe humanitarian crisis, asked for help in the face of repression from the regime of Equatorial Guinea. The country was originally founded by Spain, a bunch of other things. The island has a rich fishing and mineral resources that are available to there, and also located in a key maritime route in the Atlantic. So again, strategic advantage, Mr. Trump. I'm just saying, we could have a new island.
Are these African countries asking for like countries to take them back over again?
That's
like,
what
are we
sounds
at that
like.
point now?
Well, at least this island.
Like,
this one island's like,
we tried to do it on our own, but
actually, colonialism kind of cool.
Colonialism, come on
yes,
back.
why not?
Yes.
Yes. You tell us what shoes we have to wear now, please. Okay. Now, Mr. Olson, your choice, sir. Efficiency or contamination? Turning to the dark side or bust a move?
Let's go with bust a move.
Yeah,
Why
bust a
not?
move. Okay. Everybody dance. Okay. Now, with just a week remaining before the presidential election in South Korea, the debate has not gone to laws or trade policy or even tariffs. It's about who can bust a move the best. Yes, oddly enough, on the Korean campaign trail, it's about your ability to dance. A video of lawmaker Kim Sang-wook recently joined the Democratic Party of Korea, and he has a dancing video that has more than 1.9 million views. Kim Moon-soo performed with choreography with her campaign workers, got a view over 500,000. 500,000 views for Park Soon-won, formerly first deputy director of the National Intelligence Service, doing a bold tumbling dance as well. Yes, in South Korea, it has a heck of a lot less to do about your policies, has more to do with can you get down. You feel me? I know.
I love it.
I do
I've
think
seen
that
how
maybe
the
the next
Koreans
presidential
dance.
debate, we need to have a dance portion of the contest.
there
You can
you
pick
go.
your own music and come
Come
out there.
on, you don't know it could top DJT's dancing.
I know, that's the thing is we already have a president that dances. You know, I just think the next challenger should do it too. We could have a dance off.
That's right. I love it.
Not like that old Canadian show. Shout out to my people that are familiar with this one. Yes, this came to us from Canada. Pants off, dance off. Go Google that one. That's fun.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. And yes,
Never
it
heard of
lives
that
up to its
one.
name. Again, these are the weird things I find and watch and explains a lot
I'm
about the
telling
rot
you.
in my brain. All right.
For free.
Yes, exactly. And our final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt, efficiency or contamination or turning to the dark side?
Turning to the dark side.
Yes, turning to the dark side. It has been revealed that a seemingly innocent Star Wars fan website was actually had a nefarious purpose. It wasn't run by the Sith. It was run by the CIA. Yes, the Star Wars fan site actually was a way for CIA informants and spies to communicate. StarWarsWeb.net. However, it was hacked. It wasn't really secure, and people have figured it out. In fact, you could do some things where it would pop up and actually ask you for your CIA login information. So people have found out that the Star Wars fan site was used by the CIA.
That
So
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, they're switching to Star Trek next week. Okay.
Oh, there you
Wait
go.
till they find out
More
we're all
credibility.
used by the CIA.
I know. All right, that's
You
the
think you're
news.
texting Salem, texting the CIA. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
KNUS.
Well, it's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Colorado's blue, America's red. It all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where you're encouraged to give us a call. Join the conversation. Phone number 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Coming up in just a few minutes, Rory O'Neill is going to join us. The use of artificial intelligence, AI, is exploding. There's indicators that it will have a tremendous impact on the job market. Maybe not the job market you're expecting. Not necessarily blue-collar workers, but entry-level white-collar jobs. What's going to happen to those college kids getting out of school here in the next few years? We're going to talk with Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, about that this hour. Are you concerned you might be losing your job? Have you tried implementing AI a little bit? I get these little ads all the time, Bill, that are like,
Yeah.
Are you 50 years old and wondering about AI? Well, take this online course.
Yeah, I see those as well. And I see a lot of it's weird being inside of the radio industry because they're trying to work the AI, but it's what it can be used for and how and why not.
Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, and we talked about the Australian radio station that had the AI DJ for 6 months until a reporter started wondering how come there's no background on this DJ that people are liking, and so the reporter did some digging and even did voice analysis.
Oh, really?
And so what you found is there are certain phrases because AI does not emote. And so you can hear certain phrases.
It doesn't go up and down.
That'll be delivered at the same tone no matter what. It doesn't matter what the emotion is contained in the context. But the idea is, with all of you, it could be something that could be delivered sad. I am sad about this and I'm mourning this with all of you, versus I'm so excited about this concert, I'm going to be there with all of you. There's no delineation in that delivery. And so that was one of the triggers that tipped off the journalist. It said, this person, there's no emotion behind what they're saying to me. So they did some digging, and fake jock. And the funny part is that there was backlash because the radio station didn't tell the listeners. There is an AI jock in Oregon that they launched and said, yes, she's the AI jock. And it got some traction for a while, but quickly fizzled. People are like, yeah, you're telling me I'm listening to a pre-recorded, you're aping someone else's voice. They pulled her and they put the real jock with using her voice back on the air. So the real person is taking the job of the AI in Oregon. Yeah.
And it strikes me as similar to those people that have like AI dating relationships.
Yeah.
Right? It's so
That's
weird. Like that's what you spend your time with. It fits a need for you, apparently, to talk to a computer.
Well, and here's the weird part. When I hear the people,
is it different than playing a video game? I don't know.
The thing is, and the thing that I hear about the AI, the people that have the relationships with the AI, I'm kind of like, yeah, and I knew some older women when I was growing up that said they had relationships with the person on the soap opera. They just love that. Yeah, it's like on Friends, Dr. Drake Ramore. Oh, I am so into Dr. Drake Ramore. He speaks to me every day.
Brooke Shields that showed up and played
doesn't know. Yes,
the stalker.
Yep, and has no idea that he's not a real doctor. So that's the idea. Is I encountered some elderly ladies like that when I was young. I mean, I'm talking like 10, 11 years old, and they had what they felt was a real relationship with this image on TV. So I can see someone doing it with AI. Doesn't make it any less weird. Still.
Yeah, well, I guess, in the case of this show, you'd get less emotion, but you'd definitely get more intelligence.
Yes.
So that would be the trade-off.
That would be.
AI. You might actually get hosts that know what they're talking about.
I know. That would help.
As opposed to Bill and I.
Oh, that would help.
Graduates of government-run education. Yeah. So, actually, you were privately educated.
Yeah, I was. I was privately educated. I tell that to my kids all the time, like, some of the classes and things they were expecting, like, you have no idea. And they're like, oh, this is so hard. And I turn to them like, you have no idea. Like, you really don't understand.
Let's go to that Latin education.
Oh, yes.
I
took Latin for a while, too. Yeah.
All right. We'll be talking AI coming up here with Rory O'Neill in just a few minutes. Now, let's give you your 7 a.m. dose of news and comments. Speaking of intelligence, Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
That's funny. Good morning. Thursday, 50 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 65 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
We are working through there is video.
FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino on Fox a few minutes ago, once again on the Epstein suicide question.
That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay. It was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release. That's what's taken a while on this. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him.
Right.
There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Poison. I'm sticking with it. He was poisoned.
Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had
a lot of moving pieces in D.C. DJT on the big, beautiful bill.
Get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill. But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have.
Rumor has it that we got a big rescission package, an Elon Musk DOGE rescission package coming up. Can you confirm it?
Russ Vogt is the Director of Management and Budget, on with Larry Kudlow.
I can. We'll be sending that up on Monday or Tuesday whenever the House is back in session. They will get our first rescissions bill. And again, this has been proposed and we've talked about it. We want to make sure that Congress passes its first rescissions bill, including the DOGE, and we will send more if they pass it. And so this is the first one is foreign aid, USAID cuts, many of the waste and garbage that was funding not only wasteful but hurting our foreign policy, but also the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and NPR. We'll be sending that up, and we're working with Congress, and we've had good conversations to make sure that they knew what was coming. They had some input as to changes that could be made to make it something that could pass the House, and we're excited for that to occur next week.
And speaking of DOGE, Elon has officially finished his mission with the government and is now headed back to Tesla full time. He's already there, ready to spend 60 to 100 hours, maybe more at Tesla. The board says they need him back to work. The International Trade Court, who no one had really heard of until last night, muddying up all that is good in our country and could be on its way to another disaster here. Half of them said that Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are unconstitutional. So here we go again. Lawfare judges or judges who have TDS and think that they are the president of the United States. A hearing will be held today on efforts by DJT and the administration to keep Harvard from enrolling foreign students. The administration has launched a number of measures against Harvard and has demanded a list of international students. The university will hold its graduation ceremony today. That'll be interesting. An Aurora man is dead after a fall in Chaffee County. Hikers found 38-year-old Ronald Eugene Stamm in a creek bottom near Agnes Vale Falls on Tuesday. Stamm reportedly hiked to the falls with his family and remained behind when his wife and daughter returned to the trailhead. Investigators say Stamm attempted to climb a cliff face without equipment and fell more than 100 feet to the creek bottom. He was pronounced dead by the county coroner. Financial experts are warning that a drop in international tourists could cost the U.S. billions of dollars. A new report says spending by foreign visitors is expected to fall by over $8 billion this year. The experts say tourists are avoiding the U.S. partly because of the Trump administration's trade and immigration policies. Whatever. They'll be flying in here in droves. I don't believe it. Sorry. NBA, the Thunder struck the T-Wolves again, 124-94, and headed to the NBA Finals. They await the winner of the Pacers and Knicks series. That continues tonight. 47 in Littleton, 48 in Northglenn, 50 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Temperatures will still be a little on the cool side, and there's still enough moisture around for night and morning fog and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms today. Highs mid to upper 60s. Clearing out a bit tonight, lows 40s and lower 50s. Partly cloudy on Friday, warming to near 80 with late day widely scattered thunderstorms. 70s to lower 80s Saturday, a few late day thunderstorms, well into the 80s Sunday with a few thunderstorms late. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So Bill was leading trivia for The Office and Friends at a local bar. You played this song?
Yeah, I played this one.
What was the question? Do you remember what the question was?
This one didn't go into the question. I needed a bridge song, and this one runs about 2:30. This is A Punk by Vampire Weekend, and I needed to get from here into Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys because the answer was the Pratt Institute. The character on The Office goes to an art institute.
Yes.
Where is the institute located? And it's in New York City. So I needed this song to get me to Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys, but I'm in a rock song, so I need something that's got a little bit of a ska influence that can get me, and it also matches. It's about 6 beats slower than what Intergalactic is. So I needed to mesh. So I have those things. I do.
Do you
I did bridge songs.
Do you need bridge songs? Because I've never done bar trivia for people to go to the bar. For instance, go get some drinks.
Well, here's the thing is, okay, during bar trivia, when I ask the question, you've got about 3 minutes to 3 minutes and 30 seconds, depending on where I am and what I'm doing to answer the question. And people always come up and go, I can answer this question in like 25 seconds. Why we wait so long? I'm like, we're in a bar, right? Yeah.
Right.
Why do you think I make you wait 3 minutes until I answer the question?
So you get thirsty.
Yes. So I drink. And it gives you a chance to go to the bar. And they're like, oh. I said, yeah. I go, as much fun as I have here, my entire purpose is to sell you more beer. So I do that, and I sell the food trucks that come to the bars too. But that's it. So yeah, there were some, and there were some songs that were kind of fun that I was able to play that had some Friends references. There were some songs that had some Office references, but you have to kind of pay attention to some of them as far as the idea. Do you get the references?
Yeah,
some of them are a little bit
you
more of a
always
leap.
try to do that.
Yeah, I
do.
do.
Try to reference the music with the answer.
If you're listening to it, you're going to understand. There was one the other night that it was, can you name this logo? And it's the letter stripped out, but it's the logo of Dairy Queen. So I played Juice Newton's Queen of Hearts. So there's a reference located inside of the song if you pay attention to it.
There's an Office episode where they go do bar trivia.
Oh, no way.
Do you don't remember this one?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I've not seen that. I haven't seen the full Office run. I've only seen bits and pieces
There's
of it.
a group of smart members of the Office,
Yeah.
and then there's a group of dopier members of the Office. And ironically, during the bar trivia, the dopier members are doing a lot better.
Oh, that's
than
fantastic.
The smart members.
That's fantastic. And there is one, I've seen the one in the Office where they're taken over by Sabre, the company. So that was a question.
Sabre.
Yeah, Sabre. But that's a question about, what is the company that takes over Dunder Mifflin? And so you've got a list of them. But when I read the answer, I read it as Sabre because it's Sabre, but I read it as, and Sabre has 22 votes and everybody laughs. And I'm like, I know it's Sabre. I go, but that's just a funny reference. Yeah.
Well, Rory O'Neill's going to be joining us in just a second. Let's talk Dan Caplis. Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. right there with us on the values. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case sends a message to everybody involved in the case about you. So you want to have somebody with a sterling reputation, over 40 years helping people get justice in the state of Colorado who've been hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. In fact, Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Kaplan's Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplan's Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. All right, Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, joins us. The use of artificial intelligence is exploding. And there are some indicators that it will have a tremendous impact on the job market. Rory O'Neill joining us to talk how this may affect not blue-collar jobs right away, but entry-level white-collar jobs. Good morning, Rory. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Thanks. And in this graduation season, when there are a lot of people hoping to get that entry-level white-collar job in the next few weeks, the real concern is that those high school graduates who are just starting college, well, the job market may look very different by the time they graduate. This week, Axios published an interview with the CEO of Anthropic. They're one of the big players in artificial intelligence, or AI. And Dario Amodi said that he predicts in about 5 years, about half of all entry-level white-collar jobs will be gone.
Well, help us understand how, because I've like everybody, played around a little bit with ChatGPT and others. For instance, I uploaded a case from the United Kingdom Supreme Court, and I said, summarize it for me. I'm a radio host. Summarize it for me. And it summarized it in the exact opposite of what the actual decision was. So I think we've all kind of messed around with ChatGPT and others and gone, well, it's not that impressive. So how could it possibly lose half of all entry-level white-collar jobs?
Well, we say that those kinds of programs, AI is in its infancy, but right now I'd say it's about in its terrible twos, and those disruptive teenage years are right around the corner. And this is what Amodi is saying, is that people are not taking this pending disruption seriously enough. And whether or not the U.S. is the leader in this industry is another open question right now. So yeah, ChatGPT and some of those programs, they make a lot of mistakes. They give up false information as well. But the point being that as this massive investment for this artificial intelligence comes online, these programs will get better and better. And they're good at that rote sort of, go find research, go, do repetitive tasks, and it can scrub the internet and find information, the kind of stuff you might send a young intern or a new worker out to do. Go do that boring, repetitive stuff. The thing is, that's where you learn the job. That's typically how people learn about their own industry, and those are the jobs, half of them, he thinks, could be gone in just 5 years.
Yeah, I think back to my real first job was to be the media booker for the Senate Republican Conference. So it was my job to email producers from MSNBC, CNN, Fox, all that stuff on behalf of Senate Republicans to talk about the issues that they were pushing. I could easily see that job going away, right?
Yeah, everybody's so
I was
excited to hear
sitting
from
there
you.
pitching, like John McCain's willing to talk about Medicaid reform, whatever it might be. But that was, it was a rote, repetitive job to just sit there and email producers over and over again. But that's how you get the entry level into, a better job. And you can see that going.
Look how far you've come since then.
Yeah, right. It's stalled out there.
One of the quotes from Amodi I thought was interesting, though. He said that, he's thinking 5-10 years down the line. He says, quote, "Cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs," unquote.
Wow.
That's his concern with the explosive growth potential of AI.
Ooh. Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, joining Jeff and Bill, talking about the growth of AI and is it coming for our jobs and how soon. And unfortunately, we will not be on the beach. We're not talking about this going into a lovely retirement. Rory, what about the geopolitical implications of this? Part of what I see in the background is you have a lot of these large corporations rushing to be the first in AI. And I believe it's in part because they know that if they replace all those jobs, that's a contract that company has to have with them. This stuff's not going to remain free forever. But more importantly, the governmental implications. If Elon Musk or even with ChatGPT, they can get their claws into government contracts in which they now are government providers, what are the geopolitical implications of maybe something like the U.S., Germany, and even Russia using the same AI? What is that as far as a transfer of geopolitical power? Is it taking it from the states into these multinational corporations? What's the fallout of this long term?
Well, right. Unknown, I think, is the quick answer there. But a lot of it, too, is concerns about thievery. You know, we know how countries like China love to steal our intellectual property, just like this stuff. And the concern is that, you know, if we want the U.S. to be leading this AI revolution, not some other country or entity out there. And it's going to be a constant battle, of probably trying to, shield and protect some of our systems here from foreign invaders, online invaders, to try to keep a lot of that valuable investment in technology here in the States. So this is, again, the suggestion that this really is upending how we currently conduct business, especially in the white-collar world. And look, I've talked to a lot of people this morning and say, this is why train your kid to become a plumber or an electrician, because they're guaranteed to have good-paying work when they get out of school. But still, that doesn't speak to the fact that a lot of the businesses we know might be changing in big, significant ways because of tech, because of, by the way, CEOs who are out to save money, because if they can get rid of half of those entry-level white-collar jobs, that saves them a lot of money.
Yes, it does. That's Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent. And what would it say if you, say, have a contract with ChatGPT to provide governmental services and fill some of these governmental roles, and then you open up a governmental investigation into another arm of the company, and the company goes, how about we just turn off those workers, those AI? There's a whole bunch of geopolitical implications to this. And I just want to take a moment for the audience to kind of take in what Rory just said there, that there are now parents recommending blue-collar jobs to their kids. When we were nigh 15 years ago, we were recommending all of those bright-eyed and bushy-tailed kids getting into computer programming because the computers were the future. And now the computer is coming for your job that was supposed to be the future promised you 15 years ago. That is a crazy flip of the economic spectrum inside of America, Rory.
It is. And again, so fast moving that we all were recommending, as you said, computer coding jobs just a few years ago, CODING, a few years ago. And now we know that these AI programs can do a lot of the coding themselves.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News National Correspondent, talking an Axios article, Behind the Curtain, a white-collar bloodbath coming around AI. Appreciate you taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show this morning.
Thanks, Rory.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, would love to hear from you. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. I'll be honest, Bill, I just don't see it much different than the way the internet changed things. Where, to... I think it was Jason or maybe Andrew's point. The yellow book's gone. Okay. Things change. But with that change becomes new opportunity. And to say, the best thing to do is become a plumber, I think it's smart to become a plumber. If that's your trade, and to your point, Bill, we went way outside that by trying to push everybody into college. I think that was a mistake. I think college is set for some people, not all people. But trades are great. You should absolutely, if that's your skill set, you're good with working with your hands, go for it. But to say we're going to lose 50%, 20% of jobs in the next 5 years could be wiped out, I I don't know. I've spent time with AI. I'm taking one of these like 50-year-old classes. Yeah. It's prompt oriented. In many ways, what they're training us is like teach it like you're working with a librarian. Go in and it's all about prompt development. So say, for instance, I am a radio host of a conservative talk radio show in Denver, Colorado. I need help summarizing a U.S. Supreme Court case so that I can explain it to my audience. Okay, so it's a tool, but maybe I'm just not buying into the idea that the sky's falling on this one.
Yeah, and remember this. This is the thing that'll kind of break your brain. You'll remember this one, I'm sure. Going back to Barack Obama's tenure. And remember when he was talking to those coal miners in Virginia or West Virginia, and they were talking about the idea that we were going to start shutting down these coal plants and we were going to start looking and transition into a green energy economy. Right. We all remember that. But remember what he told those miners. That we're going to train you. Yes. Learn to code. So if we would have trained those miners to code, now the AI is coming for those coding jobs. All those next generation, next century jobs that we have promised people in America for years, AI is now coming for. That's where I see the dramatic change inside of our economy. Yeah.
So join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Could AI wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs in the next 5 years? You think that's happening? It seems a little Chicken Little-like to me. All right, let's talk Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado ag, and I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture always have conservation, efficiency, and reuse top of mind. It's what is required to make you a good farmer. And when it comes to water, it's premium. As the metro area continues to grow, Colorado Farm Bureau leads talks with the state policymakers about preserving water for all areas of the state as pressure on our water system grows. It's going to take all of us to find a solution, and my friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member of the Colorado Farm Bureau today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com to join the good people there. All right, we'll get to your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Axios, behind the curtain, a white-collar bloodbath. They interviewed Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, one of the world's most powerful creators of artificial intelligence, has a blunt and scary warning for the U.S. government and for all of us. AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20% in the next 1 to 5 years.
You know that AI company you're talking about there?
Yeah.
That's the one we spoke about that went all HAL yesterday. Same company that did the HAL, H-A-L from Space Odyssey. So they had created the AI, put it in charge, put it working with a fictitious company. It was basically a morality check, and they let the AI have access to email conversations. In case you missed Choose the News yesterday, they let the AI have access to email conversations, showing that some of the higher ups in the company were looking at deactivating this AI program and going with a different version. They also, inside the email, let the AI know that one of the engineers was having an affair. And the AI went to the engineer and blackmailed him to not be turned off. Yeah. So, yep, that's the direction we're going here. Yes.
That's amazing.
Sorry, Dave, I can't do that. Yes.
Oh, my goodness. So, is it much ado about nothing? Sky is falling. This new fangled thing called the internet is going to make all jobs obsolete. Like what happened in the late 90s, early 2000s. And look, the economy just adjusted to it. It's kind of the way I look at the climate hysteria, where people are like, everything's going to fall apart because of global warming. And I go, human beings, for all of history, have adjusted and engineered their way to a better future. It's how we operate. So the idea that all of a sudden we're going to have a 20% increase in unemployment is 50% of all white-collar jobs. No, we'll just figure out a way to make this better for us. It's what we do as human beings. Let's go to the phone lines. Joe Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff, Billy. I don't know what the big deal is. We've already had Biden, the AI president.
That's really good. That's really good. I really appreciate that, Joe. That is really good.
I don't think that's fair to AI.
No. Okay, you one up. That's fantastic.
I mean,
Nicely
Joe
done, gentlemen.
Biden
My
was
God, that's
the
good.
brain dead
That is
president.
good. That's really good.
Well, everybody calls him the sock puppet. A lot of kids are using AI for their, everything now. It's like, I need a report. Chat GPT. Let's see. But the point about AI is at some point it takes over. The quantum chips are really, really scary. I mean, they emulate reality. If you get a chance, watch the series or the mini-series Devs, D-E-V-S. It's about AI and emulating reality at the quantum level. Anyway, I didn't really call about this. I wanted to talk about tariffs because
what's on your mind?
A lot of things. I believe a lot of things that you say, Billy. The dangers of tariffs. But it's like Jeff says, all of a sudden we're upset about tariffs. Where was all the upsetness of Bill Clinton and Obama and Biden? No, what it really points out is that the media, the court system, and to a large extent the Congress is all controlled by the Democratic Party. That's what's upset. The presidency isn't controlled by a Democrat. They would go mum if it was back to a Democrat. You know it, and I know it. We never heard anything about this before, right, Billy?
Yeah. This is the thing this is really weird. This is odd because we're talking about May 29th at 7:38 in the morning, and Bill and Joe from Arvada agree. I think we're both absolutely right. This is crazy, man. We got to look outside and see if this is like, the end of the world or something. If like the sky's opening up and the four horsemen of the apocalypse are running around Denver. Yes, you are 110% right. Joe from Arvada is correct on this one, that the Democrats are really only complaining because it is Trump. They were all happy to go in lockstep as Joe Biden continued many of Trump's tariffs on China and even increased them. I luckily was one of the ones saying, this is BS. He shouldn't be doing this. This is stupid. But you're right. The Democrats, in my mind, have eroded their authority on this to say, no, the president can't do this. Now, I don't put myself necessarily in part of it, but you're absolutely right, Joe, that if this was President Kamala Harris doing the same thing, they would be making the arguments that all the Republicans are. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you'd never, and no court would be coming out to stop Kamala because she's their buddy.
Well, it depends on which court. I think you might be able to find some courts that would. But here's the thing is, I think they would be going after her in different executive orders. I think if Kamala went out and said, okay, we now have an executive order that all prisoners can be made transgender, I think we'd have some court cases there. But I wouldn't put it past her.
Not many.
An executive order. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, good point, though, sir.
But here's where we disagree, Billy. When you say the presidency isn't a monarchy. No, of course, I agree with you on that. But here's what you get wrong. Of course it's not a monarchy. We elected him. See, that's the difference. You have 4 years of every president, or 8, and then you get to make a different decision. In a monarchy, you never get a decision. It's just permanent usurpation. There's not going to be any decisions for King George, right? That's why we left that system. There's no voting him out. If you don't like, in your mind, King Obama or King Trump, then you vote him out in the next election. You operate a candidacy that you get elected. See,
that is true. Now,
that's
Joe,
the difference.
What I push back on that one, though, is that the way the Founding Fathers set up our governmental system is so that we are not subject to the whims of the executive because of what they saw with King George, that based on his whims and based on the other monarchs and the other ruling classes at the time, that foreign policy sometimes was based on that monarch's feelings and whether or not their feelings were hurt by another nation. And so I think that's kind of the some of the bulwark that was put inside our Constitution.
Well, we also have a Constitution that prevents the whim of the judiciary running the country. Remember, the judiciary isn't elected at all. So, of course, this was made mention in many of the arguments. I think I'm not a complete scholar on the constitutional discussions, but the judiciary should have the least power because it wasn't elected. That is one of the main arguments against the judiciary, and their only real premise inside the Constitution is to decide court cases between one party and another. It's not to install all these mandates across the country by national injunction. That was never the premise of the founders. That was not what the Congress wanted to have done by the judiciary. It's to discern between an individual argument. Now, if one party that was tariffed wanted to come to a court and say, we feel that this tariff is unconstitutional, then I do believe the International Court of whatever nonsense it is could maybe decide that, and then it could be argued all the way up the chain. But to put a national injunction on the president, well, where were all the national injunctions when Biden brought down from on high that we should all pay for everybody's education?
I think there were some injunctions on some of those, and eventually the Supreme Court did rule that Biden's executive orders about the student loan debt was unconstitutional, and I do agree with them. I do think that he overreached in every instance when he was trying to relieve the student debt problem based on executive order, I think.
Well,
but
ultimately,
the courts do have to resolve disputes, though, and that's kind of their role.
But ultimately, we elected him out. We got rid of
Biden AI.
Yeah, we did, and I appreciate that one. Now, when you talk about the idea of the national injunctions, do you think then that the injunction should just be pursuant to either that federal district or that region instead of being national?
This is why the Supreme Court is mentioned in the Constitution, and you don't hear of any of the other. Go ahead, Billy. Tell me where in the Constitution is the International Court of Tariffs or whatever it is.
No, there isn't. But we need those courts because the caseload for the Supremes.
Okay,
is
I understand
untenable,
that, but
unless you want to expand
ultimately,
courts.
and I think the founders understood that too, and they mentioned there will be other courts, but ultimately the ones that have these powers is the Supreme Court. In other words, a national injunction should be done by none other than the Supreme Court. Now, if a court wants to appeal to the Supreme Court and say, hey, this law is being abused so violently, we need a national injunction, and they appeal up to Clarence Thomas and say, Clarence, can you take this court case up to declare a national injunction? Yes, we can. Or no, we can't. It needs to just follow the chain of command up until there's a national injunction at the Supreme Court level. That's how it should be handled.
Would you agree the same thing based on those district court rulings that could get appealed to the Supreme Court? And what I mean by this is that usually injunctions are used to pause what is going on until the court has a time to decide. Then once it makes its ruling, but I feel I feel like you can make the same argument about an injunction and a ruling you disagree with. The idea being,
injunctions should not be taken up by anybody. See, this is the power of the presidency to do these things. When the president makes a national order, he has the power to make a national order.
Not always, sir. He doesn't.
Well, the other counterbalancing, the Congress and the Supreme Court, can then say, no, you do not have the power to do that.
But the power to make those laws. But
judge in Rhode Island.
Yeah, but Joe, the power to make laws is in Congress, not with the executive. And that's where this runs afoul.
And it's not with the judiciary either.
Yeah, but the judiciary in these cases isn't necessarily making law. They're saying that, especially like the International Trade Court is saying that Trump's violating the law. And the reason, I understand why people dislike the injunctions. I understand
they
why
are saying that.
No,
they
they're not
say
inventing
that
case law.
And then say, we appeal to the Supreme Court to install a national injunction.
Now, and this is the thing:
we install a national injunction.
Here's the thing, and this is what I think that some people disagree about the injunctions for is the injunctions again allow a pause for the case to be decided by the court, so that everything is kind of put on hold. Yes, it does. It says it basically holds on to something. Yes, but hang on a second.
That is not in the Constitution.
I know, but that's okay. That's okay.
No, it's not okay.
Yes, it is, Joe, and here's the reason why.
No, it isn't.
Yes, Joe, here's the reason why.
Because it's not in the Constitution.
Joe, hang on. There's a strategy behind this, and it's
a strategy by the Democrats.
No, not at all.
Yes, it is.
No, because
it is.
I remember a Texas judge issuing a national injunction on mifepristone. That wasn't the Democrats.
Well, it's an abuse by the Republicans too. Okay. I would agree with that.
That's weird because a minute ago it was just the Democrats.
By the Democrats.
I know, but just a minute ago it was just the Democrats. But here's the reason: the injunction.
But mostly by the Democrats.
The injunction exists
mostly by the Democrats.
No, the injunction exists. Yes. Joe, let me finish this, please. The injunction exists so that we don't have competing court decisions for the Supreme Court to have to untangle. That's the reason that exists, is that they're pausing.
It shouldn't exist at all.
No, but that's exactly the reason, because what do you do with the Supreme Court if they've got 3 different federal court jurisdictions that have come to 3 different rulings on the same basic case? Now the Supreme Court is involved. Yeah, but the Supreme Court then is involved in necessarily sometimes even making law about that. That's not their purview. They need to resolve disputes. That's why the injunction is there.
Of the case.
No, that's why the injunction's there. It's always, and you appeal that, and you have the appellate process. That's why it exists that way. So it should exist. I understand why it's painful.
I don't agree with you on that.
That's fine.
I don't agree with you. The Constitution makes it clear that the Supreme Court is the one with the power, not all these minor courts. The minor courts have the power over one case. That's it.
Joe Arvada, great call. Appreciate
thanks for the
it.
call.
That was a lot of fun, guys. Joe
That
and
was.
Bill going at it. Joe from Arvada, his line will be open 303-696-1971. Going back to Trump and tariffs, 5631 texting in, Trump should just call the imports a fee rather than the imports levy a fee rather than a tariff.
I appreciate
and then
that a lot.
we know that the
I really
courts will
appreciate
allow
that.
it to go through.
I
All
appreciate that a lot. That
Nice.
is very clever. That is really good.
5631.
Nicely
All right, we'll
done.
continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We got a little off topic from what we were originally discussing in the hour, which is whether or not your job's going to be here in 1 to 5 years. As Axios in an interview with the CEO of an AI company saying AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs, spiking unemployment to 10 to 20%.
And as you found out in You Choose the News, it could even hold you hostage and blackmail you.
Right.
So that's great. I saw someone the other day, a tech guy, that was talking about the idea that AI is really not going to be coming for your job, but somebody that can use AI is coming for your job. And so the idea being that, if you do not know how to functionally use AI to accomplish some of the tasks you have at work, your replacement will. So that's what you need to learn.
Did you see that 60 Minutes episode where they were like, AI is relying on like hundreds of people in Africa to sit here and tell computers what is like an elbow, for instance?
Yes, yeah.
And what's the knee?
Yep.
So I'm sitting there.
I have a radio friend that does as a part-time gig. What they do is they have conversations with other people to teach AI how to have human-sounding conversations. So this person will get a call from the company and say, we need you to get onto Zoom and we're going to record this conversation. It's you and this other person, and we need you to talk about strawberries. So you've got 20 minutes to talk about strawberries. And AI is just learning about how the humans converse back and forth in language patterns and what you use. And then like a couple of weeks later, they'll call them back and they'll say, tennis shoes. Need you to talk about buying tennis shoes. And then she gets on and for 20 minutes, talk about tennis shoes. Some of them are really interesting, some are really boring and bad. But that's one of the side gigs she's doing. And it pays bupkis. Nothing. She's not getting no. Don't think like, ooh, I can talk again. No. Let's just say that after one of these conversations, she's probably able to go to McDonald's once. Yeah, that's how much they're paying.
Your hamburger's made and delivered by a robot and a kiosk.
Yeah, that's exactly it, my friend.
Well, I see minimum wage laws definitely driving unemployment because anytime you go into a fast food restaurant, you order via kiosk now. But you see AI in the ordering on the little speaker box now.
Oh, yeah.
Have you
Wendy's
seen the guys
has gone
try
to
mess around with the
Yes.
AI? I'd like 1,000 tacos times 1,000 tacos times 1,000 tacos times 1,000 tacos. And then finally somebody has to break in and go, sorry, what do you really want?
What do you want? It's almost like back in the day when you would pull behind your buddy in the drive-through line, and while he's ordering, you get out of the car, and you run up next to the car and go, and 12 tacos and this and this. And then they'd have to explain because they didn't have cameras at the time, so they had no idea. They'd blame your friend for all the crappy orders. Yes.
That was my first job. Was working the drive-thru at Mickey D's.
No way.
In Inglewood, right off of Hamden there. I was 15 years old.
Jeez.
And they didn't even have a speaker. You had to actually pull up to me.
No
I sat in a little shed. outside there.
So basically they're saying it was Jeff in a box. I love that.
Early AI.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Coming up in the next hour, we're talking Elon Musk stepping down from his official role with the government. What do you think about what he was able to achieve? When we get those phone calls, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. If you're wondering about this show, yes, it's different than every other radio show in Colorado. It's a right, left, center show. The way I describe it with folks, it's kind of like the old Hannity and Combs that you'd have on Fox. We're debating the issues in a lot more entertaining way than you would get on C-SPAN or PBS.
We're a lot more fun than the McLaughlin Group. A lot more fun than them. Shout out to the people of mine that remember that one on PBS. I appreciate it.
That's right. So coming up this hour, Elon Musk is officially stepping down from his role with DOGE after wrapping up his work streamlining the government. As a special government employee, he's only allowed 130 days. This is not some big rift between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and they're no longer friends or anything like that. No, in fact, they've been trying to push back against that narrative that the left's putting out there. Oh, yeah. He had 130 days of employment. He's now heading back to focus his attention on the car. Why am I forgetting the name?
The Tesla. Yeah.
The car
not
issue.
Going well there.
So he's got to work on that. I want to get your take on what he did in 130 days and get your thoughts.
And speaking about, there's some stuff Jeff and I were talking about, aging, getting older and stuff. I want to bring that up. He and I talked about this earlier about Elon Musk leaving. That yesterday on Fox News on the website, I saw the story about Elon Musk leaving. And they had a banner that was right above the headline, kind of a bubble banner. They had the picture of Elon and Donald Trump together, and they talk about Elon Musk leaving DOGE, and they have a bubble banner to highlight it. And in the bubble banner, it said, "Mission accomplished." And I went,
Ooh.
Yeah.
Anybody that's over the age of 30 just got a little sick in their stomach.
Yeah, so the person that was doing the graphic design of the website is under 30.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Like age check.
George W. Bush on an aircraft carrier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm like, you don't highlight that. You don't pull that out. You don't make that the banner above the headline. No, don't do that. But oh well, they'll learn.
So feel free to join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Elon Musk stepping away after 130 days. Was it a mission accomplished? Did he deliver important changes to our government that you appreciate? Or are you one of those protesters that stood outside of a Tesla saying, we didn't elect King Musk and he's been terrible and all the jobs he's eliminated have devastated the federal government? Want to hear from you? Phone line 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 5115. Now it's time for your 8 a.m. dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It is Thursday and 52 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 65 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Coloradans with disabilities celebrating a big win at the state capitol. A new bipartisan law just signed by Governor Polis guarantees the right to receive care at home rather than being forced to go to a facility.
A sense of relief, making sure that people are treated as people.
Molly Kirkham, a disability rights leader and advocate who has personal ties to the issue, says the new law brings relief and optimism. House Bill 1017 locks in protection from a key 1999 Supreme Court ruling that said segregating people with disabilities is discrimination. Even if that federal ruling is ever overturned, those rights will now stay in place in Colorado. 47 scrapping millions and millions of dollars to Moderna.
The Trump administration is canceling a more than $700 million contract with Moderna to develop a bird flu vaccine and other pre-pandemic influenza viruses. They felt like after a rigorous review, we concluded that the continued investment in Moderna's H5N1 mRNA vaccine was not scientifically or ethically justifiable. And they're saying that it's not just about efficacy, it's about safety. And so it's interesting to hear them really casting doubt on just the safety and the efficacy of mRNA vaccines as a whole.
That's CNBC. The Biden administration blew millions on this, but today the Trump administration says this move is as much about the health and welfare of Americans as anything else. Former FBI Director James Comey, the big dummy, on again Wednesday with Wolf is Blitzed on CNN.
What do you say to those who are claiming you're seeking the spotlight with posts like that and speaking out against President Trump?
Yeah, I don't get that. My Instagram posts are a series of family, politics, and books. And so I want my followers, which is not the world, to follow it and to be amused by it, educated by it, enjoy it. That's my goal with Instagram.
So last night, FBI Director Kash Patel goes off on the big boob Comey.
If he wants to come after me, no problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we've had to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director?
Is that right?
Do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke and they can do it because he did it. That's what I'm having to deal with every single day. And that's what I'm having to pull my agents and analysts off because he thought it was funny to go out there and make a political statement.
And FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino on Fox this morning, and once again answering the Epstein suicide question.
We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay. It was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release. That's what's taken a while on this. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. Right. There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
A lot of moving pieces in D.C. DJT on the big, beautiful bill.
Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was, we have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But
we're almost as big as my computer falling apart here. Russ Vought is the Director of Management and Budget on with Larry Kudlow, and he says the rescission package is coming, including DOGE cuts being sent on either Monday or Tuesday when the House is back in session. It includes all the garbage that Americans want cut, or a lot of it. The International Trade Court, who Americans had no idea was even in existence until last night, muddying up everything, mucking it all up. Oh, my goodness. Half of them say that Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are unconstitutional. So here we go again. Lawfare judges that have TDS. Elon has officially finished his mission with the government and is now ready to go back to work at least 100 hours at Tesla a week. The board says they need him back there getting busy and getting his hands dirty with Tesla. The Thunder struck the T-Wolves again last night, 124-94. They just embarrassed them again, and they're headed to the NBA Finals. They await the winner of the Pacers and Knicks That series in the East could wrap up tonight. 48 in Englewood, 49 in Thornton, 51 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Bill and Joe from Arvada agree? I think we're both absolutely right.
Amen.
This is crazy. Man, we got to look outside and see if this is like, the end of the world or something. If like the sky's opening up and the four horsemen of the apocalypse are running around Denver.
That was short-lived, by the way. If you missed last hour.
Yes.
I know.
Yes. The shortest apocalypse ever, yes. And then things are back to normal.
They agreed for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And
then the relationship returned to normal. Yeah, it was great.
This is no fun. Forget about that. Yeah,
I was as shocked as you are. I know. It was great, though. I love Joe.
That was, that was a great 15 seconds. It really was.
Yes, it was. Yeah, and his joke about Biden being the AI president, that's good, too. That high five on that one, Joe. That was good.
But as they say, nice radio sucks. So keep on doing what you're doing. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Temperatures will still be a little on the cool side, and there's still enough moisture around for night and morning fog and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms today. Highs mid to upper 60s. Clearing out a bit tonight, lows 40s and lower 50s. Partly cloudy on Friday, warming to near 80 with late day widely scattered thunderstorms. 70s to lower 80s Saturday, a few late day thunderstorms. Well into the 80s Sunday with a few thunderstorms late. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Let's spice it up this hour.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, the American hero, steps down from his 130 days at DOGE, required by law. Only permits him to work 130 days. He's now going back to focus on Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and all the other things that he does. What was he able to achieve over those 130 days? Well, he introduced DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, into the American lexicon. It was established by Executive Order 14158 on January 20th, 2025, an initiative of the second Trump administration aimed at modernizing federal technology, maximizing productivity, and reducing wasteful spending. Now, I asked both Grok and ChatGPT about what it's accomplished. Well, it's a range of estimates with regards to savings. Grok saying that it was between $55 billion and $105 billion. ChatGPT saying that according to DOGE itself, roughly around $72 billion. Critics saying that it was only $1.5 billion to $2 billion. Didn't they set out to cut trillions of dollars? Did they achieve what they want? Well, here's some of the cuts that DOGE claims it was able to achieve. $6.5 billion in cuts from USAID, $502 million from the Department of Education, $232 million from Social Security Administration, $192 million from the General Services Administration. So I want to take a moment and provide some perspective on how our government actually functions. As someone who lived in the Washington, D.C. area for 6 years, has run lobbying teams down at the Colorado State Capitol. All right, the real money, the real power in government exists with special interest groups, businesses, multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar corporations that hire lobbyists to actually influence our government to drive revenue for those industries and those businesses. Few examples, okay? Washington, D.C. is the wealthiest zip code in the areas around Washington, D.C. I'm talking McLean, Vienna, those areas, okay? Arlington. Those are the wealthiest zip codes in America. And when you live there and you drive around, I'm not talking downtown D.C., I'm actually talking the suburbs of Washington, D.C., mega mansions, huge homes, okay? So if you really want to make money in government, you don't become an elected official. You go become a lobbyist. Now, down at the Colorado State Capitol, watching these lobbying teams work, you realize that our state legislators don't write the bills. they come from lobbyists. The starting salary at some of these law firms for a lobbyist starting salary is north of $200,000. Okay? So, real power, real influence comes from those entities. I think there's a bit of naivete coming from Elon Musk when he kicked this thing off as to what he was actually going to be able to accomplish because of how powerful the Democrat Party is in Washington, D.C., and how powerful these special interests are. But did he change the direction? Did he introduce a new way of thinking into our government that I appreciate? 100%. Think about Mayor Mike Johnston. Think about Governor Jared Polis. Think about the Democrats in Colorado that have never cut anything from any government project ever in the history of their leadership. Yes, the expenditures coming from our state government just goes up and up and up and up. They spend money where they can't even tell you where it goes. For the homeless hotels, for instance, an audit found that they don't even know where 40% of the money from the city of Denver to these homeless hotels went. Okay? A Democrat in political leadership in government has never seen a project that they would not want to fund. It is always about bigger government. It's always about, we believe we can provide solutions. We think we can change things around. DOGE comes in, says we're going to look at wasteful spending. We're going to use the power of technology to analyze government. We're going to seek to provide cuts. We're going to look to streamline government. It's way too bloated. Elon Musk, an American hero, 130 days of important changes to our government. My perspective. Bill, your thoughts?
Oh, this is a tough one because I can't really figure out at the core, other than reduction of federal workforce and a couple of agencies, the real accomplishments of DOGE. He didn't come anywhere close to his promises, in my mind, of either spending, savings, and efficiency. I didn't see any of that necessarily maximized. And I think you're right that there was a lot of naivete because he came into it, in my opinion, with the same idea that he did when he takes over his other companies. He came into it with a tech bro mindset. And inside of Twitter, we saw him do the same thing in DOGE. Come in, move fast, break things. And his philosophy was, we will break it, and then if it's needed, we will have to retroactively go back and rebuild it and put it back together. When you fire people involved in securing the nuclear arsenal, not a good thing. So there are mistakes there. If you're talking about coding and some things inside of Twitter, that's a whole different level than where'd the nukes go and who controls the coding. That's a different level of responsibility. And I don't think he understood that. And I think that he as he usually does, way over promises and way under delivers. I'm still waiting for the fraud because that was kind of the promise. The idea that we were going to go out the fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's important, and I'm coming back to that language that's being used, because it was always fraud, waste, abuse. A, B, C. And it's important that use of language, you lead with the fraud, because it gives the impression that that is the priority. That who doesn't want the government to go out there and find fraud? Oh, that's great. But where's the fraud? Haven't seen it. I have yet to see really any significant court cases at all over any fraud that DOGE has alleged. Pam Bondi's all into this. So you talked about lobbyists earlier.
Do you
Pam
think,
was a lobbyist.
Do you think that they could bring a court case in 130 days?
Yeah, they could talk about it. Pam Bondi talks about how they're arresting mayors, they're arresting judges. They can do that. Yes. If they're able to, inside of if they're able to make allegations and able to make actions that quickly, yes. Or at least announce, hey, here's fraud. We are going to be going after this giant pile of fraud. And even in the allegations that Musk has made, I can't see him support many, if any, fraud allegations. Everybody ran around and yelled about the Social Security issue. Oh my God, all these dead people receiving Social Security checks. the head of Social Security came out and showed that no one over the age of 110 is getting a check. They're not sending any checks. But DOGE didn't bother to check that part of the spreadsheet. They also didn't understand the coding
were still
language.
Listed.
But isn't it important?
So they cleaned that up.
Yeah, but again, if you have fraud, waste, abuse, having names on a list that are not receiving a payment doesn't, in my mind, rise to fraud or waste or abuse. It is cluttered. It is burdensome. And can it be more efficient? Yeah.
Which is part of DOGE.
But what did he announce? He announced, we found 200-year-old people in some cases getting checks. That wasn't true. And that's the problem. And so this idea that, remember when it was sold to you about the Social Security, everybody ran around for 48 hours talking about, oh my God, look what DOGE has uncovered. And when it actually got down to brass tacks, DOGE uncovered nothing other than we are using an old coding system that has never been replaced because nobody wanted to write the check in order to replace it. That's it. So I don't see the efficiency.
That's it is the right way to describe it. I think you could also look at, so fraud you'll have to see and wait and see if the FBI comes with any charges, but tremendous waste by a bloated government. Pete Hegseth had a great video out yesterday where he talks about the number of managerial consultants within the Department of Defense was bigger than the amount of soldiers employed in the Pentagon. So you end up going back to, again, these lobbyists, these special interests that see giant pots of money and how they can drive that money to defense contractors, for instance, or managerial consultants, or even some of the stuff like spending money on marketing organic shea butter in Burkina Faso or business incubators in Nigeria. The amount of money going from the United States government into these projects, wasteful. Well, and when have you ever seen our government go, you know what, we need to really do a deep dive, line by line, use the power of technology to review where this money is going so that we have a good sense of it. The point being that these special interests know that it's so big that they can get away with this type of crappy spending because nobody can see the line by line analysis of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some point there, but the idea, again, if you talk about the business incubation inside of, I think it was Nigeria that you said, there's some reasons for that because Nigeria is an expanding possible market for the U.S., also looking at natural resources. That could be an area in which we need the stuff like the rare earth minerals that Donald Trump is worried about getting out of Ukraine. And incubating small business development and creating that beneficial relationship with that government and economy as it's growing is soft power. That's huge. You don't want that relationship to be developed with China or Russia so that when the rare earth minerals come to market, they have first shot. So that type of stuff is, in my mind, beneficial. There's some other stuff that I don't think is necessarily beneficial, but that can be covered under waste and or abuse.
Yes.
But that, as I've outlined since DOGE started, is more about perception. We could walk around Denver and go to many of those protests and ask people about these programs that were done by USAID or anything else. You go down to the people that you saw protesting Donald Trump on that big bad Donald Trump is bad day.
Right.
If you would run them through some of those programs, some of those people would say those are absolutely vital. Those people aren't necessarily in favor of waste or abuse, but they have a different perspective about what's important.
Well, part of the perspective is that when it comes to Democrats, there's never a project that they would ever cut. Ever. They're spending $1.5 million to hire an outside the state firm to design a bridge to nowhere. Because it's not their money, because they believe they're gods put on this planet to improve things, they never cut anything. The only reason Jared Polis was hemmed in at all with regards to his budget is because it's mandated by the Constitution that he has to balance the budget. But his spending continues to go up and up and up and up because they believe that what they're doing is so important. There's not a single project they would ever cut. And what DOGE did was expose the amount of money going into some of these things, like $118,000 for a USDA contract for Democratic Republic of Congo Youth Climate Corps coordinator, where you just go, it's got to be cut. We're $37 trillion in debt. DOGE exposed a lot of this so that the American people can see what their money was actually going to. When you're $37 trillion in debt, a lot of it is to deliver for special interests.
But I disagree with that,
I appreciate what Elon Musk was able to achieve.
I disagree with the idea that DOGE uncovered this. That was all listed on government websites. We had all of these programs outlined on government websites. Anybody that was curious had access to all of this. In fact, that's how they double checked that Elon Musk was not being truthful or intentionally obtuse about contracts he was cutting, because they went back and they checked, because it was available to the public because of their Open Records Acts and their websites. And so
this
it
stuff
was there.
It got noticed and cut within the first 130 days of a new administration, saving the taxpayers this type of money. It was done quickly, efficiently, and that was led by Elon Musk.
Oh, no, not at all. I would totally disagree that it was efficient in any way, shape, or form, because he fired people that he had to bring back, and the numbers that he claimed were not there. It can't be. You can't sit there and say that they did this efficiently when they claimed an $8 billion cut for a contract that was $8 million. That's inefficient and wrong. And that was one of the numbers they claimed.
What you're doing is you're kind of poisoning the well, from my perspective. You go, well, they didn't get as much fraud, so therefore the project wasn't successful, or they got this number wrong, ergo the project was not successful. When you look, I'm looking at Elon Musk, probably one of the greatest gifts intelligently to America in its history. I mean, the fact that we have him and what he's been able to build with SpaceX and Tesla, and then what he was able to bring to the government. With that, I mean, he's a genius that's unparalleled, and we got him for 130 days focused in on our government, and he made important advancements.
I totally disagree. And the reason, and I understand why you feel that I'm poisoning the well, but what I'm doing is I'm evaluating his stated goals and his results, just like you would do if you had a project inside of any governmental entity, hopefully, or more importantly, on private business. If Elon Musk had started a project and said, this project is going to have a net benefit of $2 trillion, and comes back and says, okay, and he's going to do this in 130 days, couple of months, and we're going to come back and be able to save this, and he comes back and has 8% of his goal, that's a failure on any timeline. If you come back and if you were tasked with boosting revenue for your corporation and you have a goal that's set and you come back and you've met 8% of your goal, anybody that's in sales, you have your quarterly goals and you reach 8%,
when has Jared Polis ever delivered on any of his goals? Ever.
Again,
Mike Johnston, ever. These guys never deliver on anything.
I'm not.
You got a guy that
I am
maybe
not
8%,
defending them.
but I'm guess better than 8% delivered that for the American people. I'm not even sure he got paid. I don't think he got paid.
His companies did. The other part is this, and the cost. They're talking about the cost of it. That to pay all the Doge people and the cost associated with everything that was done is over $100 million. And again, I'm not defending Jared Polis. I'm not defending Mayor Mike Johnston. I am taking Elon Musk and his project and evaluating him. And the idea being, like, if you're in class and you have a teacher that is grading and saying, well, I understand your project here, but these projects over here also didn't do it. No. Grade me on my project. Don't grade me on the projects that other people in the class did.
Bill,
that's fine.
He was able to achieve what no other project has ever been able to with government. When have you ever seen government exposed, cut, and reduced? Ever. I'm talking, let's talk Douglas County. Let's talk Aurora. Let's talk some of our conservative friends, let alone Jared Polis and Mike Jones. But when have you ever seen government reduced?
Again, I'm not necessarily that concerned over the fact of government being reduced per se because of how the reductions take place. That just because it's reduced, that it's a benefit. It's about where and how those reductions were taking place, because, again, it was about efficiency. And that's where I don't see him doing this efficiently, nor is he accomplishing his goals. If Elon Musk said that we are going to, like he did, launch a electronic semi, and these things are going to be produced within X years, and a number of years later, he has achieved 8% of his goal, that's a failure.
Who stopped him?
That's a failure.
Who stopped him?
Elon Musk stopped himself.
Oh,
But what?
Not Elon Musk. His guy was sued into the ground every step of the way by the Democrat Party. They attacked his own industries, lit his cars on fire. This guy was met with incredible headwinds, from the special interests that I just talked about to the Democrat Party to aggressive, liberal, progressive protesters. They all tried to stop him. Yeah. If he achieved 1%, I'd thank him for his service. According to your numbers, even if he hit 8%, I think he did more than that.
Waste of time.
But thank you for what you did for the American people. He's an American hero.
No, he's not an American hero at all. It's a complete and total waste of time, and he couldn't reach his promises, just like he hasn't for the past, 13, 15 years with Tesla and other companies.
The guy
can't reach
delivered
promises either.
Most electric cars in world history.
But how's his company doing now as far as competition? How's he doing as far as sales?
Because the left are sabotaging him.
No, but
yes.
It doesn't. No,
don't say he never delivered anything.
What do you mean? No.
You said he never delivered anything.
Oh, I said he didn't deliver on this. No,
and you said on his electric cars.
Yeah, you want me to run through the long list of broken promises? He's supposed to launch robo-taxis here in about 5-6 days in Austin. He hasn't even completed the permitting process. He promised that it was going to be launched. He promises electronic semis were going to be launched. Not there. His Cybertruck, when it came out, was delayed by years.
Why are you
cost
so
twice.
Judgmental, ignoring what he's actually achieved because he didn't hit a date?
Why can't I judge someone based on the promises they make on what they're going to do?
Because he actually delivers quite a lot.
8% isn't a lot. 8% of $2 trillion is not a lot.
He has delivered more electric cars than any other human being in history.
One, I disagree, partly because that is not his company. Two, there's where he was in the life cycle. I'm saying that the Tesla is an accomplishment. But now that he's facing competition, he's getting tanked. And guess what? Those liberal protests, those people lighting cars on fire, not necessarily in France, not in Portugal, not in Germany, not in Europe, where his car sales are being eroded. It's not just these Democrat liberals in America that are doing this. He delivered a Cybertruck that looked like it was a fourth grader, carved it for their very first Pinewood Derby race, and it cost twice as much as he promised, had half the battery rating that he promised, and is on track right now, unless sales turn, to be on par with one of the greatest automotive failures in American history, only surpassed by the Edsel. That's his truck. That's how accomplished he is. I can judge him based on his goals.
You look at that, and then you totally ignore the fact he rescued 2 people out of space that the American government couldn't get. He's revolutionizing the space industry,
about this.
and he's likely to put humans on Mars.
That's dumb.
He is an American treasure.
He's not going to put people on Mars. That's not going to happen. And because of the technology, that won't happen. And yes, thank you for going and getting the astronauts. Yes. See, when he does stuff like that, I'm not sitting here and saying that he can't do things, but I'm going to judge him based on his goals, his accomplishments, and what he's able to do. And DOGE, when he started, $2 trillion cuts, and he got to 8%.
And
that's a failure.
No, it's not.
Failure.
No, it is not. It is a big win, because when else have you ever seen American government cut?
Tell your boss you accomplished 8% of your goals for the quarter. See how that evaluation goes down.
Bill, he didn't have to do any of this. He didn't. He could have just very well sat in his mansion and counted his billions.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse the failure. You didn't have to show up. You didn't have to take the job in sales. But
I
you didn't have to take the job in sales. But if he only gets 8% of your goal, you failed at sales.
No.
Failure.
He is an American treasure. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Rob in Tennessee saying, Bill, you're letting the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Is 8%,
if Elon or Trump
good?
Don't do exactly what they've said, it's never good enough or even classified as a success by him.
If your kids got 8% of their work done for the English class they were enrolled in, did they do a good job? Thank you.
I don't think those numbers are right, and he didn't have to do this, Bill. And he got. If I would considering the exponential growth of government we've seen in Colorado and in Denver. Would you consider an 8% reduction in the spending Mike Johnston's doing a success? I sure as hell would. All right, phone lines 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Let's talk our friends at Mountain High Appliance. All right, Memorial Day is already passed, but until June 4th, you can still get Mountain High Appliance savings of up to $4,300 on KitchenAid appliance packages at Mountain High Appliance. They're proud to offer KitchenAid, an iconic brand trusted for over 100 years. But don't wait. These deals won't last. You have till June 4th. When you think appliances, think locally owned. Mountain High Appliance will continue. Phone calls rolling in. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Elon Musk stepping down from DOGE after wrapping his work streamlining government, his employment with the federal government as a special government employee only lasts 130 days. This isn't the result of any differences between the president, Elon Musk. But a question to our listeners is, what do you think Elon Musk achieved? Do you consider him successful? Do you consider him a failure? From my perspective, I think Elon Musk is a genius, a once-in-a-generation genius. And the fact he took 130 days to put his power towards our federal government resulted in a lot of improvements that I think is beneficial for the American taxpayer. I think our federal government's way too bloated. I think it's controlled by special interest groups. To Mary's point from Wyoming, that, all these presidents of NGOs that have multi-million-dollar mansions, including the person that led that church in D.C. That stuff needs to be explored. He brought the power of technology to our government. Did he achieve all the big cuts he wanted to? No. But he also ran into a lot of headwinds, and I don't blame him for those challenges. I blame the left that threw everything they possibly could at him, tried to sabotage his companies. And I think we should appreciate the work he did for 130 days. Let's go to the phones. Gary, Denver. Good morning, Gary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning. Elon's a failure, same way as Trump is a failure. I appreciate and I enjoy listening to Billy the same way I do Kyle Clark and PBS, because they come with the receipts. What they say they support with data. And particularly PBS, it's the single most important news program on the air, 6 o'clock every night in Denver, because they provide the information and support for exactly what's going on. And as far as Elon Musk is concerned, a complete failure. He's only made people upset and enemies. He's killed people. He's been complicit in the destruction of USAID. The first day that they paused the funding for USAID with a blunt instrument, children and adults all over the world started to die, and him and Trump will live with that for the rest of their lives.
Do you think there should have been no cuts to USAID?
No, I think there probably should have been, but to just cut off funding so that people, say in Africa, didn't get the medication and the food that they needed, where hundreds of thousands of people, and if you watch PBS, you'd see the pictures, died and are continuing to die, and there's nothing worse than that, absolutely nothing.
So it's our job to prevent people in other countries from dying.
It's not our job, but I am more than willing. No,
we got to spend our taxpayer dollars. We're $37 trillion in debt, and it's our job to keep people in other countries from dying.
I did not say that. Don't put words in my mouth. It's not our job, but I would donate my tax dollars to save people and children all over the world.
Well,
and
you don't need to donate. You don't need to donate your tax dollars. You could do it yourself through charitable donations. Do you donate to those organizations that are saving people's lives in Africa, for instance?
No, because I realize that it needs to be funneled in a very systematic way, and that's what the government is. No, it shouldn't be forced.
Well, that's what taxes are. Taxes are forced.
Taxes are what I'm saying is that I'm more than happy, and there's a lot of people, maybe not you, that are willing to donate in the form of taxes to save children. And you keep talking about. Wait a minute.
What's stopping you, Gary? What's stopping you from donating even more? I'm guessing you're probably an intelligent guy. You've raised a lot of money. You get paid well. Why not donate out of the kindness of your heart? Why does it have to be tax dollars?
Well, right now I just don't have the money. But let me just say one last thing. You keep talking about the debt. You keep saying it's $37 million. Well, guess what? Trump is going to trillion. Well, guess what? Trump's going to run it up over $40 trillion. And you said no one ever cut back taxes and programs. You know what? Biden did that when he came in after Trump. He canceled programs that he didn't didn't support. he canceled a lot of the Trump initiation. I can't tell you what they are, but
like the border.
It's just common sense.
Securing the border.
That could be one. Right. Yes, that would be one, and of course, you'd pick that one.
So,
but that's fine.
I've tried. What else do you think that Joe Biden cut?
I can't tell you, but I can tell you one thing, that I know that he canceled a lot of Trump's executive orders from Trump's first term, and it's just logical that would result in reduced government. Now, what he did was replace it with funding of things that he valued. The same way, that's what Trump's doing, and this is what Elon Musk is doing. You said, well, they cut all this program. Well, guess what? They're still increasing the debt. So
On
they
what?
cut it.
What is driving the debt?
It's all of Trump's
Medicaid,
programs.
Medicare, Social Security, defense spending.
Yeah, but he increased other programs that are in line with his values.
Anytime Donald Trump tries to cut anything, you get Jason Crow and Brittany Pedersen running out there saying that people are going to die. To your point, like you just said, people are dying out there if we cut anything. Oh, by the way, he's not cutting as much, but he's cutting some, and they're just never happy. Gary, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. We got to get to a break. All right, we'll continue. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. The original question, did Elon Musk, or I guess, would you consider Elon Musk's tenure, 130 days, working as a special government employee, successful? Would you like to have seen more cuts? Do you consider him a failure because he did try to cut some stuff, but God forbid we cut anything from the government? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Who was our previous caller? Was it
Gary?
Gary, thank you. I knew there was a Y and an R in there somewhere. I was thinking Ryan,
too.
but Gary.
Yeah.
So, Gary, I want to thank you for your call and encourage you to go to kyleskarens.com to buy your T-shirt in support of Kyle Clark, because right now there's only one that's been purchased. We have 2 shirts there, and if you've missed the conversation about Kyle's Karens, we noticed that whenever we talk Kyle Clark, there's like an army that shows up in defense of him, and similar to the way you would name supporters like Justin Bieber's fans,
the
believers, or
the Swifties.
It was the Swifties,
the Parrot Heads.
Yeah, Parrot Heads, exactly.
Yep.
We offered and asked what would the name for Kyle's supporters be, and
there's so many. They should have a name.
and they came up with, via poll, Kyle's Karens. So we made shirts that said, "I'm a proud member of Kyle's Karens," or "I am not a member of Kyle's Karens," and "I am not a member of Kyle's Karens" is leading a lot.
A lot. We've sold one of the pro Kyle's Karens shirts. One of the, and they're blue and red. So red if you're not, blue if you are, for obvious reasons. And these are great. These are professionally designed shirts. Kind of a fun description that we have on the website for you. Join us at kyleskarens.com. Kyleskarens.com, because next week it's the end. That's the last time you're going to be able to order them. Yep, as of next Friday, they go away permanently. This company has vowed to never print these again because they're afraid we're going to get them in trouble. So they said, this is a one-shot deal. We'll do this for you once, this one time, and then we're destroying all the evidence so that we can't be hauled into court later. So that's what's going to happen with this. You got one shot at this, and the T-shirt is designed so the front of it looks like you're wearing a sport jacket, because all good news broadcasters have to wear the sport jacket. You've seen it. I've seen it. Don't you love it how they keep it buttoned when they sit down? They're supposed to, even though that's not supposed to what you're supposed to get unbuttoned. Okay, anyway, I digress. So you've got the lapels like you're wearing a suit jacket on there, and then it says, "I'm either a proud member of Kyle's Karens or I am not a proud member of Kyle's Karens." And I love the fact that the designer picked sort of the Mr. Rogers font for Kyle's Karens. It just looks good. It just gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling no matter which one. So if you are like maybe Gary and you like what Kyle does, go ahead and get yourself a blue shirt at kyleskarens.com. See, that's the thing, is we are open to both sides here, just like we are on the radio. All thoughts, all ideas, even my stupid ones, are welcome. So just like that, someone in your family that likes that form of feelings journalism, go right ahead and get him the blue shirt. You like what Jeff does here and more facts instead of the feelings? Get the red shirt. kyleskarens.com, only available until next Friday.
So we'll continue our conversation in the next hour. Plus, a watchdog group believes there is no evidence Biden knew of crucial climate executive orders being signed by AutoPen. Could this be the greatest scandal in American history? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Who was this AutoPen guy? This is 710 KNUS.
Or you could just sue the Trump administration to keep those tax dollars flowing.
Nice job.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Boy, we have kicked it off in the text messages. Tons of text messages this morning, all about Elon Musk and what he was able to achieve, and people supportive, people critical. We're talking AI and the fact it may take your jobs, Trump's tariffs, all that debated. So you can join the conversation at 720-819-5115. Bill, I've often thought maybe we should have a chat where people can respond to each other, but that might set off a nuclear weapon. You never know. I mean, it's like you could end up with so many text messages and going back and forth, fighting with each other. Oh, my goodness. But we can see them all if you text in at 720-819-5115. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell us what Bill's got wrong. We're all here for it.
Yeah.
Phone line 303-696-1971. This hour, I want to talk this headline coming from Fox. Watchdog group finds no evidence Biden knew of crucial climate executive orders. Demands answers on who signed the auto pen.
And who is this auto guy? How did he get a hold of the pen?
Let me explain. So I worked in D.C. for a bit. And
so it was you?
Well, no, I can explain how auto pen works.
Okay, good.
Because it's kind of funny. Senators, members of Congress, they all have auto pen because they get a certain amount of budget that allows them to mail their constituents. It's called franking. And they can respond in correspondence. So if you write a letter to your senator about an issue, climate change, the assassination of JFK, whatever it might be, you will oftentimes get a letter back from your member of Congress. Now, your member of Congress does not sit there with 10,000 letters and sign each one of them. They put it in this machine, and the machine has copied the signature. So it learns your signature. It's a little robotic pen, and it just sits there and signs it. So this is standard operating procedure for most correspondence coming from Washington, D.C.
So you're telling everybody that has that letter framed on their wall, it's not that special.
It's very true. With one exception, and this is kind of funny. So I worked for Bill Armstrong when he was the president of Colorado Christian University. I ran the Centennial Institute for him. There was another person that worked for Bill Armstrong long time ago, and his name was Neil Gorsuch.
Oh, yeah. Heard the name.
U.S. Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch from Colorado was an intern for Bill Armstrong and worked in Washington, D.C. for him. Now, Bill was incredibly frugal, would not allow his office to purchase an auto pen. But Bill himself was still not signing the signatures. So what Bill did was teach the interns to go sign signatures. And Neil Gorsuch one time talked to me about how he would, along with all the other interns, go down to the Senate cafeteria with a giant stack of correspondence from Bill Armstrong, and they get sodas and chips and stuff, and just sit there and talk about who was dating whom while they were signing Bill Armstrong's signature.
God, that's so funny. That's funny. So basically, he was just teaching them the trick of signing your parents' name on the permission form for the field trip.
My brother learned that. I want to give a shout out to my brother because I couldn't sign my dad's signature, but my little brother could.
Dang.
And so we all went to him to sign the permission slips. And all that other stuff.
Here's the thing is, my kids knew that wasn't going to be an issue because 9 times out of 10, I wasn't signing my own name. Yeah, I had this theory that when the schools
weren't paying attention anyways.
All they're looking for is a signature.
Right.
So I'm like, no. And I go this way, and I just told my kids, I go, I'll sign it. I said, but this way, if the teacher comes back and says that, say, no, call my dad, and he'll tell you that he signed that. And I'm like, yes, I signed my kid's permission form as Batman. Absolutely. I signed as Bill Clinton. I signed as Mickey Mouse. The issue is I knew they weren't checking for the name nor necessarily the penmanship on the signature. They were just looking for the signature. So, yes, my kids, and I told it to some teachers afterwards, and they went, what? I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Haven't signed a single thing, the entire name the whole time. But all the stuff, all the assignments that were returned, if you go back and look, all different names. All different names. Yeah.
Now, it's one thing to sign a permission slip for your kids via a Batman. It's another thing, to sign a letter to little Johnny from kindergarten who wants his member of Congress. That's all. That's right. Okay, we all get that. How about executive orders that have the power of law, right?
Probably can't do that as Batman.
Should the
That trick doesn't
person
work.
actually know what they're signing? Well, Fox out with this. A pro-energy group is renewing its call for an investigation over half a dozen Biden administration executive actions related to climate change that it believes should be deemed null and void due to them being signed by an auto pen without any public comment from former President Joe Biden confirming his knowledge of them. Right? So right now you watch Donald Trump. He sits there with these executive orders and he does the sign thing. He's all very proud and he talks about what each one of them is doing. But Joe Biden wasn't doing that. Power the Future, a nonprofit organization that advocates for American energy jobs, reviewed 8 Biden executive orders that it says were significant shifts in domestic energy policy and said it found no evidence of the president speaking about any of them publicly, raising concerns that the orders were signed by auto pen and that he was not aware of them. These are not obscure bureaucratic memos, they say. These were foundational shifts in American energy policy, yet not once did Joe Biden speak about them publicly, says Daniel Turner, the founder and executive director of Power of the Future. The executive orders reviewed by Power of the Future include Arctic drilling bans in 2023, a 2021 executive order committing the federal government to net zero emissions by 2050, an executive order mandating clean energy AI centers, and an offshore drilling ban executive order shortly before leaving office in 2025. Finding no evidence of Biden publicly speaking about the executive orders on climate, Power of the Future sent letters this week to the DOJ, EPA, DOI, DOE, along with House and Senate oversight committees calling for an investigation to determine who made the decisions, drafted the executive orders, and ultimately signed them. I want to hear from you on this. Do you think Joe Biden knew what he was doing, especially towards the end of his presidency? Was he the actual commander-in-chief, or was somebody else acting as president of the United States? And is this something worth investigating? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for your 9 a.m. dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, Thursday, 53 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 65 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Wait till you read the stuff that's coming out.
Does he still have loyalists in the building? Because when I hear the FBI director saying, you guys are finding boxes that are hidden, okay, how does that happen in the Bureau?
Well, we were there a couple of weeks, and luckily there were a lot of people up there who grabbed us by the arm the minute we came in and said, thank you for being here.
FBI Director, Deputy Director Dan Bongino on Fox News this morning. Once again, news about the corruption under James Comey and others and the evidence they found.
You know, we need to talk. There are people there who are really horrified at what happened. And there was a room, and we found stuff, a lot of stuff.
A hidden room.
I wouldn't call it hidden, but hidden from us at least, and not mentioned to us. And then we found stuff in there, and a lot of it's from the Comey era, and we are working our damnedest right now to declassify. And just so you know, because I get the public, I totally understand people saying, well, do it now. The process is not all the information is ours to declassify. Some is other intelligence agencies. It's not, we literally can't do it. Once that gets done and that gets out there and you read some of the stuff we found that, by the way, was not processed through the normal procedure, digitizing it, putting in FBI records. We found it in bags hiding under Jim Comey's FBI. You're going to be stunned.
The shells.
Yeah, the shells, the seashells, were they in there? No, they weren't in there. But as Billy told me, it's funny how James Comey says he doesn't want the spotlight, yet he shows up again on CNN with Wolfgang is Blitz.
What do you say to those who are claiming you're seeking the spotlight with posts like that and speaking out against President Trump?
Yeah, I don't get that. My Instagram posts are a series of family, politics, and books. And so I want my followers, which is not the world, to follow it and to be amused by it, educated by it, enjoy it. That's my goal with Instagram.
Okay, just for a second.
You big dummy. You big dummy. You big dummy. You big cold-blooded dummy.
Yes, Fred
Sorry,
Sanford.
I had to for
Fred
you.
Sanford, yes, Fred Sanford, the
For
best
you.
Red Fox.
Go ahead,
yes.
Billy, I'm sorry.
Dude, so okay, one, that entire conversation there, Comey's being asked by the interviewer on CNN about seeking the spotlight, and what do you say to people that say you're seeking the spotlight? While he has TV spotlights trained on him. Well, I don't know, but you could have said no to Wolf, you idiot.
Right,
Oh
hello.
my God.
You're in a TV studio.
Yes. So one, dumbass on James Comey for talking about it, and dumbass on Wolf Blitzer for asking the question. This was a double dumbass interview.
Absolutely.
Dude, thanks
now,
for
now,
highlighting
true,
it, man.
Yeah,
God,
no doubt. Now,
jeez.
true enough, nobody watches CNN
That's true.
anymore. However, everybody at every airport saw it.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Is Bill Belichick still on Instagram?
Who? What?
Bill Belichick?
Because he's on Instagram.
Is he? I don't know. I'm not following.
Does he have
him.
his girlfriend tagging him and all this stuff?
I thought they were just on OnlyFans now. That's
Didn't they get engaged?
Just the Beauty and the Beast.
Did they?
I thought I heard
yeah,
that.
they did.
After the beauty contest.
Oh hell yeah! No, yeah, of course. Yeah, she wants to tie this thing up. She understands. She understands how this
you're
works.
right.
Yeah,
She better, man.
Oh yeah, does she ever?
That's true.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were engaged.
Speaking of just bad old dudes on Instagram, my mind went to those pictures of Bill Belichick with his 25-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah, like,
I
what the
just
hell?
the worst. James
gross.
Comey. You know, show some pictures of your grandkids and talk about.
Yes.
But that's about all you should do on
Don't
Instagram.
go on a national interview show and then complain about all the attention. Don't
in
do
the
that.
Spotlight.
Yes.
What a fool.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Oh my God.
All right, the Golden Era administration won't be giving millions and millions of dollars to Moderna.
The Trump administration is canceling a more than $700 million contract with Moderna to develop a bird flu vaccine and other pre-pandemic influenza viruses. They felt like after a rigorous review, we concluded that the continued investment in Moderna's H5N1 mRNA vaccine was not scientifically or ethically justifiable. And they're saying that it's not just about efficacy, it's about safety. And so it's interesting to hear them really casting doubt on just the safety and the efficacy of mRNA vaccines as a whole.
That's CNBC. And can Russ Vogt, the director of management and budget, on with Larry Kudlow, confirm there's a rescission package coming?
I can. We'll be sending that up on Monday or Tuesday whenever the House is back in session. They will get our first rescissions bill. And again, this has been proposed and we've talked about it. We want to make sure that Congress passes its first rescissions bill, including the DOGE, and we will send more if they pass it. And so this is the first one is foreign aid, USAID cuts, many of the waste and garbage that was funding not only wasteful but hurting our foreign policy, but also the
Okay. And I thought Fake Tapper was bad. I mean, he is. He is just ridiculous. Now, F. Chuck Todd jumping on the bandwagon. Another fraud who all of a sudden changing his tune.
Hillary Clinton was doing a rally, and it was like, I'm going to be the president for African Americans and Latino Americans. And she just went down the list, right? You just pick your identity group, and she went down, young American, da-da-da-da-da. And my staffer goes, so she doesn't want my vote. She didn't ask for my vote. I mean, he's a white male.
Yeah.
She didn't ask for any man. The only and so it was just sitting there going, and now you're like, oh, we've got a problem. Well, you spent 15 years essentially ignoring that vote. And in fact, not only ignoring it, interest groups going out of their way to marginalize that demographic group.
Of course he's correct, but that was 2016.
You're right. I mean,
what does he work for Salem Media now?
8 years late to the party on this one.
Right.
The Democrats
he
always
sounds
are
like
on
us.
this. I mean,
what a joke,
any
man.
white male. I have often thought about this with my boys being born, where you're like the amount of guilt that you just inherit being born. into your skin color, right? Like, well, they're born in like 2012. Like, what historical injustice did they do being born 13 years ago that you want to like saddle them up, and you wonder why they want nothing to do with your party?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just showed up and you imagine walking into a room and you're blamed for every historical evil. You're not going to stick around that party.
No.
You're going to get out of there. And that's exactly what's happening. That everything that they get right now, and the total loss, and they even want to spend like tens of millions of dollars to go figure it out. It's classic liberal, thinking. Well, gosh, how did we get here? Let's go spend money to figure it out.
What a
You're
joke.
a bunch of jerks. That's how you got here.
Dude, he was talking about 2016. I have never heard that guy, just going hard at the Democrats at all. I mean,
what does he even do? Sleepy Chuck Todd? Does he just have a podcast?
Yeah, that's a good point. No, was he NBC?
Yeah, I think he was.
He was I don't know. He's a dork. And this whole my staffer. Man, why do you need a staffer? You read a teleprompter. You were horrible. You're a horrible reporter and anchor, okay? You're a dork. I had to get that off my chest. Edmonton has a chance to eliminate the Stars tonight and head to the Stanley Cup Finals against Florida. One caller told Billy, hey, come on. Canada hasn't seen this, and she's right. She is correct. I mean, since, 93, the Habs, the Canadians. I mean, can a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup Finals? First time since 93. Thank you very much for that reminder. Thunder and the T-Wolves again last night. Thunder win big, 124-94. They're headed to the NBA Finals. The winner will take on the Pacers and the Knicks. They play tonight. Pacers could wrap that up. That's an amazing story. 51 in Castle Rock, 50 in Westminster. 53 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue, and my name is not F. Chuck Todd. Thank goodness. My name is Blake.
You dummy. You big dummy.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Temperatures will still be a little on the cool side, and there's still enough moisture around for night and morning fog and a few scattered showers and thunderstorms today. Highs mid to upper 60s. Clearing out a bit tonight, lows 40s and lower 50s. Partly cloudy on Friday, warming to near 80 with late day widely scattered thunderstorms. 70s to lower 80s Saturday, a few late day thunderstorms. Well into the 80s Sunday with a few thunderstorms late. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, if you remember, Joe Biden couldn't even remember who George Clooney was. Just a few weeks after spending time with him, this was part of the Jake Tapper book about how it all fell apart towards the end of the Biden administration. And Bill, you pointed out that Joe Biden was supposed to be a transitional president.
Yeah.
But a report published by the arm of the Heritage Foundations claimed that a majority of the official documents signed by Biden were allegedly an auto-pen signature. This nonprofit organization about energy is calling for 8 executive orders to be reviewed. During the Biden administration, hundreds of billions of dollars were funneled towards pet green projects while the American fossil fuels industry was punished. And there's no evidence that Biden ordered it, directed it, or was even aware it was happening in his name. You may also remember the conversation that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, not the mayor of Denver. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, when they're talking about an executive order signed by the president with regards to Ukraine that Joe Biden didn't even remember signing. They're saying this auto pen scandal is evidence that these green executive orders are invalid, that this money was sent out. It's not right, and the investigators should be thoroughly investigated by the DOJ for violating the trust of the American people and perpetuating a great fraud on the nation. Should this be investigated, Bill?
No, I don't think so, because I think they need to bring better proof. Because from what I read in the article and what I hear in these circles are a conclusion that is looking for proof. They start with Joe Biden was out to lunch. Joe Biden didn't know what was going on. Now we're going to work backwards rather than working forwards to what happened. And is that then proof that Joe Biden didn't know what was going on and didn't have this happen? I know the one instance about not understanding the climate change bill, and that's fine, and that is an issue. But that doesn't say that for the majority of his presidency, he didn't know what was going on, nor was anybody else involved in this. And I don't believe that the phrase, he didn't talk about it in public, is prima facie proof of somebody else making the decisions. You're gonna have to come with a lot more information. And I'm not even willing to kick off an investigation based on these allegations. You need to show me a little bit more.
I mean, what would you like to see? A memo from Joe Biden going, guys, I'm going to take the last 2 years of the presidency off. You're in charge. I mean, what that conversation is going to be quiet. It's going to be hidden. And you're going to have to look at evidence like this to
evidence like
get
what?
A sense.
What's the evidence?
Well,
show me what the evidence is.
I think you have the her conversation where he can't remember dates, right? So you have the FBI trying to interview him. And Bill, that audio that Axios released, that's like visiting your elderly dementia grandparents in a nursing home. That was the president of the United States. He didn't know dates. You have evidence from his supporters that he doesn't remember who he was meeting with. You have evidence from the Speaker of the House that he didn't remember signing executive orders. And then you have the actual documents themselves that have been reviewed by the Heritage Foundation that shows that they were signed by AutoPen. So he's not even signing the documents himself.
But AutoPen has been used for decades and decades by other presidents. So just because it's and that's what I hear he used AutoPen, thus here's our conclusion.
It's not just that. You have a lot of evidence he didn't know what he was signing.
But hang on a sec though, but that's the start. The start of this is AutoPen means he doesn't know what he's doing. And again, the characterization inside the Heritage Foundation is for the majority of his presidency. What we have are, and anybody that's dealt with individuals that are in later stages of life and even approaching dementia, I'm not certain that I can say that Biden is at the dementia because I'm not that kind of a medical professional. And I don't know what those stages, I don't know how to see it, but I know that he's slipping. Yes, that is obvious. But in my experience and what I know about that is that there are moments of lucidity and then it is lost. And so the idea that when he was in that conversation with her, yes, it sounds bad, but he knew what the conversation was. The fact he couldn't recall the dates is not that unusual for someone.
More than that, he changes entire directions in the middle of. He bounces all around.
So does Trump.
It's
remember the
bad.
weave? But remember the weave? The same thing, though. So you can't say that because he digresses off of theme in the conversation that he doesn't know what he's talking about, nor that is an indication that Donald Trump is experiencing dementia. He wanders. So do most elderly people in those stages. And Donald Trump wanders in answers as well. So that's not necessarily proof. Are there individual silos of non-lucidity? Yes. But what we'd have to see is that the people in charge behind the scenes that were helping out at the White House, one, knew that he wasn't lucid. Two, had a plan or process or procedure to make sure that these things were signed and done without his knowledge. So it would have circumvented any sort of conversation with him, because as soon as they have a conversation with Joe Biden and he's like, yes, that's a good idea, I agree, you can make the case, I believe, that yes, he knew about it and said this executive order is okay. Donald Trump, there was a thing that happened the last couple of days, and I'll see if I can grab it, where Donald Trump is talking about one of the executive orders he's signing in the Oval Office. Now, the libs went nuts, and again, because I'm unaffiliated, so I am able to say that, despite what the people in the text messages say about me. The libs went crazy on social media going, he doesn't know what he's signing! No, I didn't come to that conclusion. Was he unaware and didn't understand some of the details of what the executive order that was placed in front of him? Yes, that seems evident based on what Trump was saying at the time. But does it mean that somebody else is in charge and having him do these things without anybody else's consultation? No, I don't come to that conclusion. I thought the liberals were wrong on that one. And without any other proof other than what I've seen so far, I'm not on this auto pen scandal. I don't believe that, as Donald Trump has said, it is the second greatest scandal in all of American history. But remember, Donald Trump always says things are the greatest scandal ever. This is like our fourth or fifth greatest scandal ever that he said. So,
the totality of the evidence, including new comments coming out from David Hogg, the former vice chair of the Democrat National Committee, was that staff within the White House was actually running it. You have evidence from Joe Biden's own supporters
I'm not
that
sure
he
that's what
doesn't
Hogg's
remind.
statements say, though.
You have interviews with leaders of other governments that Joe Biden wasn't aware of what he was signing. You have AutoPen. You have all the public views, the debate performance, that Joe Biden was not in command of his own presidency, that other people were. I mean, I think at this point, the only thing you're looking for is some memo of Joe Biden willingly giving up the presidency, which was never going to happen in the first place. I think you have plenty of evidence to show that, like the movie Dave, somebody else was orchestrating everything behind the scenes, staff members. I mean, you even have David Hogg coming out and saying that Jill Biden's chief of staff was the one that was, in many ways, running the administration.
I disagree with your interpretation of the conversation there. The conversation that David Hogg had with Project Veritas was that he was scared of the chief of staff of Jill Biden and said that he had a lot of power behind the scenes. Did Hogg specifically say he was running the country instead of Joe Biden? No. In that conversation, did he ever give the impression that these people were running it instead of Joe Biden, or they were the power behind the king? Yes, that they're power behind the king. But the idea that it was instead of the king was never communicated in the David Hogg conversation from the clips I've seen. I don't know if it exists elsewhere in the conversation. And that's where I come back to the point of this is a conclusion looking for rationalization, because the conclusion is that Joe Biden was out to lunch, and regardless of David Hogg not saying that people behind the scenes were running things instead of Joe, that's how Project Veritas and other people have sold it. That is not what Hogg said. He said that the chief of staff for Jill Biden had outsized influence on what was going on inside the White House, more than what you would normally understand and what you would actually believe should be in the person that is chief of staff for the first lady. If you found out that the chief of staff for Melania was the one that is in charge of some of the executive orders that Trump was running, then you've got some questions, etc. But he said he had outsized influence, but he didn't say that Joe Biden wasn't running the ship.
I cannot stress to you enough how much power he had at the White House.
Yes.
I mean, you can, and then you could go, well, Joe Biden was perfectly sane. And I mean,
I didn't say that either.
What I'm going back to is when conservatives first started to point out that Joe Biden was facing real serious cognitive problems in his ability to lead, it was dismissed as a conspiracy. All the media out there going, these were cheap fakes that conservatives were putting out. Then it was exposed for the entire world to see at that debate. Okay? Now you have Jake Tapper and others trying to essentially rewrite history, in my perspective, going, oh, we kind of knew about it all along, but it was the White House was covering it up from the inside, that type of thing. Now you have George Clooney coming out and through Jake Tapper's book, Joe Biden was such a mess, he didn't even recognize his own friends in the room. Now questions are starting to come out that the last few years, it was really bad to the point where he wasn't aware of the executive orders. From my perspective, this is a continuation of what conservatives have said all along, was that somebody else was running this thing. There needs to be an investigation.
Now, I appreciate what you said right there, and here it is. It's the idea of that all this evidence is a confirmation of what we've been saying all along. A conclusion that is working backwards, looking for the evidence. It's exactly what I said. This is a
Bill,
conclusion that you
when you have a
came
dead body lying on the ground, you work your way backwards from it.
But you don't turn and say, Jim killed this guy. Let's go get Jim. And that's what I'm seeing in this. It's not a question about who killed him or how this process worked. It's an idea of this person killed them, and
Bill,
now we're going to work backwards.
Was Joe Biden suffering from cognitive decline in the last 2 years of his presidency?
Yes, I believe so.
So
Did it?
why not even ask the question?
Right, I didn't say you couldn't ask the question.
Was he aware of what he was signing in those executive orders?
Yes, that's a fair question. However,
but then
Heritage,
you have to investigate it.
Hang on a sec. Heritage has decided no. And the proof that they bring is he didn't talk about it. That's basically what they've got. He didn't talk about it. That's anything
one
solid.
element of evidence in a case you're trying to build.
But that's
he's
one
signing
piece.
executive orders. He's not going to go do a press conference or talk anything about what he just signed.
Well,
that's pretty good evidence.
No, it's not. It just means he didn't talk about it. It doesn't mean that because they didn't talk about it or make some sort of a TV show, that's not prima facie proof. You're not going to be able to convince. You're not going to be able to convince a court. You can walk in there and provide that as proof that this person did X, Y, or Z because they didn't go out there or didn't know it was happening because they didn't talk about it. That's not going to work that way. That's why you need to come with more information. And in fact, we should take a break. But I found the piece that I'm talking about with Donald Trump that the libs were using, and it was late last week, I believe. And when I saw it, it first had the sensational headline that said, Donald Trump slipping dementia, and I pushed play and went, no, that's not dementia. That's not. They were coming to a conclusion and using this clip the same way. But if you have the conclusion that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing and you listen to what he's saying, you easily have your predetermined conclusion reaffirmed based on language. But I'll play it when we get back.
All right, join the conversation. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Guys, while Bill and I disagree about a lot, we agree that if you're going to have your hair work done and you want to grow that hair back, Advanced Hair Restoration is the people to choose. And in fact, not just us, Westward readers, now 2 years in a row, have voted and rated Advanced Hair as the best hair restoration company in Colorado. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results. I've seen it with my own eyes. It's not magic, but close to it. They put hair where you need it, and it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology, and best of all, you get your own natural hair that begins regrowing the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now. Here's their phone number, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online at advancedhair.com. The phone number again, 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com, advancedhair.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. He's joining us live in studio. Peter Boyles previewing Saturday. But first of all, I want to say last Saturday was fantastic. With Bandemir. That was so fun. And just the stories you guys were telling. So if you missed that, go to the YouTube channel or download the podcast at 710knus.com. You had Bandemir. But what do you got for folks this Saturday, Pete?
I've wanted to speak with this guy for well over a year. There's a book entitled Chaos. And there's a Netflix show about the book. The Netflix show really, and I'm going to ask Tom O'Neill what he thought of the show. I didn't like it, but it's Charlie Manson, it's the CIA, and what they call the secret history of the 60s. And there was a program you and I were talking about called MK Ultra. Yeah. Whitey Bulger was in MK Ultra, and no one even knows how many people were in MK Ultra. But there was a guy that they called Jolly that was involved in all of this stuff, who went into the cell with Jack Ruby, the murderer of Lee Harvey Oswald, and his playing in that. And now, according to many, many people, he is seen in hate. There's two focal points in California in the 60s. Haight-Ashbury in the north, which is really an intellectual, radicalized, left-wing. And then there's L.A., Sunset Strip. And, of course, Sunset Strip plays out. Manson's in both places. Yeah. He's Charlie here, but he's seen with Jolly in the Haight, and now he reappears in California in Sunset Strip with Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys, Terry Melcher, who is the daughter is the son of Doris Day. And these are very powerful record people. But the whole idea that Vincent Bugliosi produced in Helter Skelter that was why they killed him. This guy O'Neill says no. He's reporting about the Manson family murders, and he said these people were related into the CIA when they were trying to manufacture a killer who had no emotion, the ability just to kill. Huh. And I mean, it sounds crazy until you listen to O'Neill speak. And he confronts Vincent Bugliosi again and again and again and again. Bugliosi is literally, I don't want to say afraid of him, but I think he said every cop and in L.A. knew that O'Neill was onto it, but who were Manson's real friends in Hollywood, and why didn't law enforcement include Charlie's own parole officer, set on many chances to stop him? Then how did Manson, who really is just an ex-con, turn a group of peaceful hippies into these remorseless killers? And he says the CIA's involved. And it's a brilliant book. And he's worked for 20 years on this book. The guy, I can't wait to meet him. And you got
him Saturday on the show, 9 to 1.
He's coming with us. And he says the CIA, the FBI, the LAPD, because the chaos is this book that mounts up to this deputy district attorney by the name of Stephen Kay to overturn the verdicts in the Manson murders. It's a special book.
Oh, this is going to be a hot one.
Especially, I was listening to you guys coming in about who was running the country.
Yeah, right.
In that time period. And I like what you both said, but imagine the guy got the automated pencil, the automated pen. Right. He can sign stuff. He can sign Joe Biden's name.
Yep.
Billy.
You take that home with you.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, not at all.
Oh, that's going to be great.
Yeah,
so Peter Boyles, 9 to 1 Saturday. It's must-listen-to radio, especially if you're running around doing errands.
Yeah.
You tune in, 710 KNUS.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
You get this. Yeah. What I appreciate about your show, Pete, is we're covering the news as it breaks. I was kind of trained under Hugh Hewitt, and Hugh would just always say, talk about the news, Jeff. So whatever's in the news, that's what we cover.
Sure.
You take stuff that people thought about, and you go in depth in ways that this show can't, and it's very cool.
I love you both, and you're doing great work. I get 4 hours on Saturday, and I get to plan it, and you guys don't. I mean seriously, because I did this show.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, first thing you do, what happened?
Yes, that is exactly right.
Very first
because
thing.
That's what you're going to talk about.
Yes.
So a deep conversation on this is fascinating. Tom O'Neill will be joining you, the author of Chaos. Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s.
Yeah. And Billy, the stuff about who was running the country.
Oh, yeah.
Better now.
I bet. Oh, this will be fun. I can't wait. This is
what do you guys
radio.
make of Musk bailing? But that's it.
Well, I think a lot of pressure under Tesla. I don't think he wants to watch Tesla go. But
that's right.
I'm reading the biography on him from Walter Isaacson.
I read that.
And the sense I get from him, and you can correct me, is at the end of the day, government is not really where he's going to put his energy. He believes he's going to save humanity both through Neuralink, and the environment is a side thing, right? That's Tesla. But Neuralink and then Mars. He believes we got to get multi-planetary.
Yep.
That's where he's ultimately going to put all of his energy.
I agree with him. He has that moment when he tells these people, why he treats people as he treats them. He said, "We're going to Mars."
Here's the biggest critique that I think is very apropos of Elon Musk. And it's offered by a former friend of his that they since have had a falling out. And he said that at the core, to understand Elon Musk, you need to understand this. Elon Musk desperately wants to save the world, but only if he's the one to do it. And I think that perfectly encapsulates
his
him.
childhood. We talk about everything, but about going to those gladiator academies,
right? What his dad put him through.
Oh, and have you got to the part where they're going to have the reunion, and his father walks in the door with the pregnant little girl? His father must be that whole family. Wow.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one.
That's a great read.
So for great in-depth discussions, you got to tune in Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., 710 KNUS. It follows John Caldera from 7 to 9. But Pete, this Saturday, Tom O'Neill, the author of Chaos. Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. We'll be here with Pete.
I love it.
So.
Thanks, fellas, for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Let's talk L&L heating and air conditioning. Guys, we're bouncing all over weather today. 67 today, 81 tomorrow, then 87 on Sunday. You got to have a system that can handle it all. We've done the research for you. Believe me, I've looked at a bunch of them. L&L heating and air conditioning has delivered for the Hunt family. They installed it all in one day, no stress, personal service from start to finish. Here's some of the deals they got going on right now. A free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with new furnace or air conditioner installation. No emergency charges. A $0 trip fee. They're not nickel and diming you. Price match value guarantee on equipment, free estimates, licensed and insured, and a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great. Our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. 720-851-1691. 720-851-1691. Online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called them that number again, 720-851-1691. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy and I were talking watchdogs finding no evidence Biden knew of crucial climate executive orders he was signing. Was Biden in control? And you had some audio. Bill.
Yeah, this is just something that last week the libs went nuts about this, saying, see, Donald Trump doesn't know what he's signing. And I believe, like in the case of the auto pen scandal with Biden, that these were the liberals coming to the conclusion and then working backwards about Trump. Let's see if it plays. Oh, it's not going to play? Oh, seriously. Hang on a sec here. This is great. Nice job. Okay, let's try it now. Oh, come on.
We need to do this for America.
Are we doing something about the regulatory in here?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yes,
you are,
because
sir.
that's going to be a big factor.
Yes, sir. That issue I just described will be addressed in this EO and many other issues that we don't have.
Yeah, so that's just the thing there that he turns and says, is this something about the regulatory? And then he says that you're doing here, and so the guy has to talk to him about what the executive order he's signing. Do I think that means Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing? Nope, not at all. Not at all. I'm not using that to indict Trump. Just wanted to say.
It's the totality of the evidence, Bill. Joe Biden was out to lunch. Everybody knows it's going to be proved by this investigation. All right, somebody else was running the White House. We'll have to find out who. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
We are KNUS. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.